Okay. Yep. Good evening. All over to the Monroe Public Schools Board of Education work session. Today is Monday, March 23rd, 2026, and the time is 5:30 PM. Jamie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Heck.
Here.
Mr. Jenkins.
Here.
Ms. Myers.
Here.
Mr. Sabatini.
Here.
Mrs. Taurasi.
Here.
Mrs. Vincent.
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Will you please stand for the pledge? Before we begin, please note that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. There are two cameras in use this evening, as at all our meetings, one focused on the Board of Education, another that may be used during any public commentary or presentations. By participating in this meeting, you acknowledge that you may be captured on video. Thank you for your understanding and for joining us tonight. Next up is discussion items, and I'll turn it over to Superintendent Shaw.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. So our first item we have on the agenda tonight is our Sodexo presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Cassie, and she's going to take the lead here.
And I am going to turn it over to Joe Uri from Sodexo. He's got a nice presentation lined up, and we've got some of our other staff, including our new GM, which Joe is going to introduce to the board.
Thank you, Cassie. Good afternoon, board, administrators, and audience. So I think to start off with, we do have some menu items available to taste test. So if you'd like to grab a plate, a couple of plates now, to give you a moment to do that, then that way we can kind of go through the presentation, and you'll have something in your hands to kind of reference to. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if you like something, go ahead.
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. I'm gonna drink water. I'm good.
There is
gonna play
a
Darwin
menu
tonight.
board there as well that describes the menu items, and we will talk about those as well. There is a menu board up there that with the items, and we're going to talk about those as well.
Yeah.
Maybe there was something I wanted to ask you, and I don't remember.
I struggled with that about 20 minutes ago, and then I remember saying,
Came back to you.
but it took at least
Yeah, but I got 20 years on it, pal. It's gonna take more than 3 minutes.
6 minutes to me. I said it took me 3, and he goes, you got 20 by 20. I said, it sounds like 6 minutes to me then.
It wasn't important, it was nothing.
It'll come to you.
It'll come to you.
Hey, Mitchell's doing state this weekend. Mitchell's going to state.
Is he really? Great. Is Colton going up there with him? Colton took 2 firsts and a third at Wayne County meet,
Awesome.
and he got disqualified and won another one. He didn't show up in time. Yeah. He did, yeah. My grandson's found in your son's footsteps swimming, yeah.
Less wear and tear. Yeah, it's all like that.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
Very important. They all.
Is that where you grew up, is
He
Rocky?
never eats.
I go over there every year and play golf at Boulder Creek.
Good attitude.
At Boulder Creek? Oh, no kidding, they got great meals.
Played that many times.
I really do like that.
That's a pot sticker, some chicken, and then a Mediterranean wrap, which has some interesting stuff in it. So what is in here?
Well, I think it was 2 years ago we were playing on one side of the street. On the other side, they had the LPGA. Here, let me make some room for it.
And for those that didn't get an opportunity to get any food, we're going to leave it there. So don't stress. All right. First off, I would like to welcome our new general manager here in Monroe Public, Chef Eric Buhner. So welcome. And he's just going to come up and just give a brief kind of, here, this is who I am.
Good evening. Hi. Yes, I'm Eric Buhner, brand new district. I'm very happy to be here. Been cooking, been in kitchens over 30 years. Started off in high school. I've worked in every segment of this industry, including corrections, and I do not recommend. Passions, as long as I can remember, I was in the kitchen with my mom. Did I go to college for culinary? No. My degree's, I have a BFA in photography, so completely different. Then I found out when I graduated, I wanted to eat every day. That doesn't happen being a fine artist. So I went back, culinary school, worked my way up. Chef, sous chef. I've been in contract dining since 2007 with Sodexo. So with them for 5-6 years. I left, stayed with healthcare. Majority of it was healthcare, senior care, higher ed. In 2019, I joined K-12 with another company and thoroughly love it. The kids are excited to be around. They're excited. They're enthusiastic. You go to some of the other places, they're not so happy to be there. So it affects the overall mood. What I want of this district is what we do here, and I've worked in quite a few districts. Some more need than this one. Some's extremely wealthy, like kids driving Beamers and Mercedes to school. And the food we do here is phenomenal. Like, I was at a gala. This is like my first couple weeks. It's Barron Country Clubs I worked at. I was floored. The quality is top notch. Everything's on par. What I want the kids to talk about the food. Oh my God, did you try that today? I want to make it more visible with digital signage in the cafeterias, using what we have. Let them see what's coming up. Maybe do some display plays so they can see what it looks like. We'd love to make this fine dining and great, but we're built for speed, not comfort. Let's get them in, get them out. Let's give them the best quality tasting food we can. And let's keep going. I want to feed as many kids as we can every day. Let's see if we can increase our participation even more.
You're welcome.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chef Eric. So we're going to go through a couple of, I have 2 videos and just kind of a brief overview on each of the programs from elementary to middle school and to the upcoming new high school program, which you're getting a preview for. So we'll start off with a quick video from our Bright Bites elementary program.
It's really important that we're feeding children a very balanced meal. That's why it's so important that the choices are there for the children, because when they have the choices, they're going to find something they like, they're going to eat, and then they're ready to learn.
Got glazed chicken.
I can see the video. Anyone? Yeah, it's just showing it from. It is not embedded on.
It's really important that we're feeding children a very balanced meal.
So how about
That's
we-
why it's so important that the choices are there for the children, because when they have the choices, they're going to find something they like, they're going to eat, and then they're ready to learn.
Got glazed chicken.
Ooh, that looks really good.
We got a vegetable stir fry.
Quality, healthy foods. That gives our parents one less thing to worry about in terms of getting their kids off to school. It sets a proper tone for a healthy, balanced lifestyle here at school.
Most of my friends were not in the same class, so that's when we can actually have a time to talk.
What's your favorite thing they ever served?
Their breakfast for lunch. My baby's school lunch is the dumplings.
The partnership, Sodexo, is fantastic. They're receptive, they work with us, and they're all about the kids, and they're all about providing the best food and best service.
How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Having a good lunch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really important to me that they listen and work collaboratively with administration to learn how children are receiving the food and what they can do to change and improve. Sodexo has done a great job with that.
The sincerity is there. They do these things because they love the staff, they love the community, they love the kids. It's just so meaningful. Without question, there's a difference.
Our kids are willing and excited to try new foods, and we just have to help them learn about them and experience them.
Honestly, I wouldn't even want to think about it. I can't imagine the rationale for not being a partner with Sodexo as far as food service goes. They're hands down the best partner we've had.
Well, I apologize that you couldn't see all the friendly faces and smiles that we had on the video, but I will make sure that we share that out so you can see that after this. So today's menu for Bright Bites. Bright Bites is our elementary program. So today's menu for Bright Bites is the pot sticker dumplings that you have with the vegetable lo mein. We can customize the pot stickers to be vegetarian, chicken, pork, whatever suits the particular building's needs. Our next program is the Foodie. That's our middle school program. With Foodie, don't get used to Foodie because we are rebranding Foodie as well. So our new Foodie brand should be coming out in the next 12 to 18 months, as from what I'm being told. We're typically refresh brands every 4 to 5 years. So this was time for a refresh on Foodie. But I did want to touch on some of the local things going on, not just with Foodie, but for all of our programs. And it's a map. Again, you can get this presentation afterwards. A map that just shows our partners that we work with in Michigan for various produce items. So there are some local ones around here and out on the west, east and west sides. The company names and their locations are on the map. So we do work as much as we can with local to provide our fresh produce. And with the Foodie program, what you see up there is our orange chicken rice bowl with stir-fried Asian vegetables. Now, the preview that you're getting is the new program for the high school. So currently it's called Taste 4. This is our new program called Crave Experience that will be rolled out next school year. I believe we're on slate for the second half of the year to get this program rolled out. And this is what just a quick overview of that program. We've got a lot of new items, fresh items, as you can see with the pictorial, the animated pictorial. A lot of different styles of foods that are all coming with this program. And this one I know is going to work because this is embedded. So there we go.
Today's students want more. Bolder flavors, healthier options, less time in lines, more time for connection. In short, welcome to the Crave Experience, where the cafeteria isn't just about the food, it's a vibe. Globally inspired, familiar favorites and comfort food classics, daily rotating specials, handcrafted dishes made fresh and flavorful, and student approved. Crave reflects the latest food trends, menus in their pockets, nutritional transparency at their fingertips, and customization every step of the way. Performance-focused meals, balanced nutrition, endless variety. Crave is good for students, good for communities, and good for the planet. And it's all brought together by a welcoming, service-oriented team that fosters belonging, enthusiasm, and school spirit. The Crave Experience. It's not just the cafeteria. It's altogether better food for schools.
All right, and with the Crave today, the preview foods, we have a tandoori chicken flatbread bowl, and also a Mediterranean roasted veggie wrap. So those are the two items up there for Crave that are going to be coming next year. So what does all that mean for Monroe? So we said a lot of things. So what does that mean for Monroe? So we just don't want to serve meals. We want to, be in the moment. My kids always talk about, the lunchtime experience, how they come in, and I always ask, because they don't go to the same school district that I go to, is like, how's your experience in the lunch line? Is it engaging? Does the food look fresh and inviting? Is the atmosphere inviting? So it's just not the food that we're serving. It's an opportunity for belonging, students getting together, interacting, and even sharing with their food experiences at the lunch table. Food that's eclectic, cool. There's a lot of cool things out there, out of the ordinary. But we don't want to exclude our traditional students as also. Not everyone wants the trendy type foods. So we're always going to have our staples, things that are familiar with the students. And when I'm talking about this is in all grade levels. So what I'm saying here impacts all grade levels, just not the Crave. So you have your traditional fares, the gotta have comforts. Those aren't going to go away because students are looking for those. My son is a very, I hate to say he doesn't follow in my footsteps with food. He's a very, starchy kind of kid, the noodles and everything else. But anyhow, this does give, students an opportunity to try new things and also have their comforts to make sure that they do get a meal that they enjoy. And our feedback is based on test sites from across the globe, giving us insight on international, national, and also regional favorites. So we can drill down into, more local favorites, and also looking at surveys for students in this area to see what, and looking at our history too to see what kind of food is impactful here. So students are demanding more than just quality, more than just choice. They want that chef, inspired, feel when they walk into the cafeteria. And they're demanding it to be customized, individualized. And it's really impactful when the students are in control of their lunch. They can customize it just like as if you would go to, a restaurant, that has a lot of options. They have that ability to customize their meal to match exactly their preferences, so putting them in control. Straightforward, whole food options, minimally processed, and we're talking about proteins like fresh chicken. We do have a display on the table back there that shows our whole muscle products that we're currently using, which is a great product. But what we're also bringing to the table now is going to be just fresh raw chicken, and fresh raw proteins, and that's what you're eating on the samples that we have up there. So that is going to be something that's coming. And things like, just the fresh herb accents, the roasted vegetables, not having those, frozen vegetables. Let's have some fresh roasted broccoli. And to do that, we're looking at, the state-of-the-art equipment to execute those types of foods too. So I know that we've made some significant investments for equipment, and there's some more opportunity to expand on that equipment piece of it to help us get to where we need to be. with that. And, you know, things like, you know, on a service line, having the ability to, from a specific location, be able to serve something hot or cold out of the same spot with just a flip of a switch. So that's the type of equipment that I'm talking about, that's state of the art, that gives us that flexibility. And that flexibility that gives us is going to give students more choice and flexibility on their end. And of course, you know, creating an environment with marketing and our staff smiles to make it an inviting space. Just a couple of pictures on some fresh things that are going on. The top left actually happens to be a version of the elementary edamame and pot stickers, making our own fresh breads for our subs, and whole fresh roasted chicken legs and other items there as well. And I wanted to keep this as brief as I could, so that's all I have. And open up for any questions that you may have.
So I do have, Cassie has one other piece of information that was requested, and so she's going to share that. So Cass?
Okay.
So I apologize. I pulled up our food expenditures in the food service fund for the last 7 years. And in 2018, 2019, we spent just over $1 million on food. And last year in 24, 25, we spent almost 1.8 million. So we've increased the amount we're spending on food, which the food service fund, that is just food that we're serving to the kids, by almost $800,000 in 7 years. So we are investing some of that fund in food directly. And I know that was information that was requested. And if you'd like, I can put that as well in board brief so you can see the numbers each year if the board would like that.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. The other thing was, even with the 1.8, we were still looking at a surplus this year of close to 2 million.
Yes.
So even though we're spending 1.8, we have almost an equivalent amount of surplus funds
Correct.
that,
And that's an ongoing problem because the state and federal governments have increased their reimbursement amount, but they've also still continued to hold you to a maximum amount that you're permitted to have in the food service fund. So
Right.
they've increased what they're giving us, but not increased what we're allowed to maintain.
yeah.
And they haven't increased what we're allowed to spend because we do have to stay within certain per meal dollar amounts and the necessary nutritional requirements. So we can't, as much as I would like to say, we can spend all that $2 million on food. That's not sustainable, one. And two, we do have limitations that we have to work with it.
What's the limitation so if these are the numbers we're looking at, what would be the max amount? Because I say, give it all back to them and serve them shrimp on Fridays,
Right.
but other than that, so would that be?
It's a food cost percentage is what the state is looking at to responsibly spend the money that we do get. So, you know, you look around that, you know, 35, 40% kind of threshold is to where our food cost needs to be. So if we get in, you know, $10 worth of revenue, $3 to $4 of that is an acceptable food cost.
So what is the high side of that? So they're saying you need to spend at least 30 to 40% of those funds out of 100%. What about the other 60 to 70?
That is the recommended up to 40%.
So they don't let you go higher than that?
That is what they're recommending, correct?
I understand the recommendation. I was
Yeah.
just wondering if you could go higher.
I don't believe so without, you know, additional approvals at the state level, but I have not gone through that process.
Yeah. Because our federal dollars to pay for lunch and breakfast are anticipated to continue without an end, is what my understanding is right now.
Correct. There has not
Yeah.
been any
So
movement at
we
the
will
USDA.
continue
change
to
that.
look at every year having a surplus equivalent to our expenditures for food. So I'm just trying to, say, why couldn't we add another 20%? But it sounds like you don't know.
That's something that we could, sorry, not to cut you off.
no, yeah.
That's something that we could discuss, but as Mr. Yuri noted, we would also have to discuss that with the state as far as having that be permissible.
Yeah, because we're not taking all of it, but at least, some of it, because it's going to continue at the process it is.
And when Joe and I were speaking, when they were preparing this presentation, he also wanted to note that some of the newer equipment is why we can do more scratch cooking and have those higher quality meals. So the equipment is an important component as well, because without those equipment upgrades, they wouldn't be able to have the offerings that we currently
So
have.
you're talking like stoves and cooking equipment back in? I'm just trying to follow.
Yeah,
Because I remember when I walked in the
Yep.
kitchen, I said, where's all the cooking equipment? I didn't know that it was not there anymore.
So an example he gave me, not to steal your thunder, but was the ovens that we have in the cafeterias. The ones that we had before weren't capable of roasting vegetables in the time frame that they had to be able to cook meals. But now with the higher quality, more new equipment, they can roast fresh vegetables within the time frame that makes it feasible to cook, and that's what they're doing.
And that's what the money we spent the last 2+ years on, was replacing all that equipment.
Yes.
And then there's also the service line equipment, which I think is what the other piece of it that
Yes.
that I'm just getting involved with
Yep.
now too. So
Yeah.
there's the
Yeah.
service line end of it and that the students see.
So essentially, if we want to spend more money on food per student, we have to go to ask the state for permission to do that. Is that what I'm
Beyond
guessing?
that, yes.
I'm all on board for that.
So
I'm only one voice, though.
I was interested in the fact that we're obviously trying to get less processed food.
Yes.
So what is that? What is your mix currently right now, roughly, like processed versus fresh? That's a
Well,
tough question. I mean,
It kind of is, but we also have commodities to work with. We get money, commodity money, and so we have a bank of commodity foods that we need to order from as well, or else we lose that funding. So the commodity foods can be, those are the traditional foods that, some of which is back there. So we're talking about the whole muscle chicken. There's some, fruit and vegetable options. So there's some different protein options and fruits and vegetables in that commodity program. So we want to make sure that we use that funding that we're getting as well, just so it doesn't go away. So.
So we were at the classroom. I don't know if anybody else had anything, and I had the luxury of going to over 10 classrooms and speaking to students. So in there, the teachers are like, they're on the board. I gave them an example. I'm coming to talk with someone that does the food. So what would you like me to share with you? So I asked a couple of different classrooms. I'm going to go with basically the top 3 answers. The pizza was number 1 answer. They said, what happened to the pizza, and where's the old pizza, and can we have it back? So that was pretty much a given. Like, they were all cheers on that one.
Okay.
The other thing was, they said if they're on the last lunch, a lot of times they don't get the same choices as the other lunches do because they're out. So here was an example someone gave me, because I said, give me an example, because I don't know what I'm talking about. And they said, there's chicken nuggets, and then there's spicy chicken nuggets. And they said, everybody likes the chicken nuggets, but nobody likes spicy chicken nuggets, and that's all the choice we get. So that was their example on that one, so I'm sharing that. And the final one was 20 minutes is not nearly enough time to eat. We need more time. So that goes to everybody. But those were the top 3 answers I got, and I wanted to make sure I shared them with you.
I appreciate that, and we will, I'm going to take that and look at the pizza situation here as well as the other.
And then Andy can let them know.
All of a sudden, one day, you're like, whoa, old pizza's back. They'll know something happened. So, or the why there. When it comes to the scheduling, that's an item that's at administrative level, and that's a conversation that can be had, and that has been an age-old conversation in schools. We used to have students that would race through because they knew the playground was available to them, and so 15 minutes was more than plenty of time because they got it down. Where other students, they needed a full 30 because they were going to be social and slow, and so that one's always been top of the. I want to say thank you for coming in tonight. Appreciate that.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
And nice meeting you again.
All right.
And certainly thank you for the food.
You have some time to enjoy it tonight, so.
Yeah. So while David's getting, David's going to go into our next item, which is the Michigan Health Education Standards Framework Review. So to any of our community members that are here right now, if you're hungry and want some food, please come up and get it. There's no problem with that. David will just keep right on rolling. It's no big deal there. Take one courageous one.
There's a lot.
To go up there.
Yeah.
So
on,
feel free
Steve.
to. But
They're hungry.
Yep.
Steve, they're hungry. There's a lot of food up here, folks.
So to our board, in front of you have this document right there. Please pull that out. David and his team did a phenomenal job of doing the crosswalk. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to David.
Thank you, Superintendent Shaw. What you have in front of you, board members, is the new 2025 state-approved State of Michigan health standards. And what we've done is we've broken it down and tabbed it into 4 sections. I'm going to be going over each section. The slides are color-coded. If you have a question that you absolutely have to ask, we can do that. The sections are rather short. Your question might be answered during that time when we're talking about it. But please, love to answer questions, clear up any ambiguity or anything, any wonderings that you may have. What you will not see in this presentation is things that are not currently part of Monroe Public Schools health program or sex education program. You will not see anything about abortion, the Plan B pill, hormonal contraceptives such as pills, patches, insertion devices, spermicides, LGBTQIA plus community, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, condom distribution, or condom demonstration. Monroe Public Schools is an abstinence-only district, and what that means is abstinence is the only 100% effective way to protect you from unwanted pregnancy and the spread of STIs, STDs, AIDS, things like that. So what you will see, while the standards and guidelines may have changed, the overall message is from our health teachers is that we believe we can continue going forward with the current health curriculum textbook that we have, and that there really is no change to the materials that we need to carry out our 9-12 health standards and some of the other things that we'll be going over. The first thing I'd like to touch on is where we came from. The standards were last updated in 2007, and they were broken down into standards and strands. Standard 1, core concepts, access information, health behaviors, influences, goal settings, decision-making, social skills, and advocacy. Okay, I'm gonna plug this in. Maybe. Got a new appreciation for my friend Andrea, who talks out here all the time. There we go. Okay.
That works.
That works good. Thanks, sir. Strands. Strand 1, nutrition and physical activity, alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Safety, social emotional health, personal health and wellness, HIV and other STI prevention, and sexuality education. Those are the previous standards established in 2007. What's new in 2025? We have a greater emphasis on social emotional competencies, updates to ever-changing technology, social media, vape devices, things that have I guess, progressed and evolved over time. And our standards are more deliberate in how they integrate safety skills, prevention of trafficking, sex trafficking, abuse, and students establishing healthy boundaries. So that is what is new in the 2025 standards. The new standards and guidelines go into great detail about how Michigan is a local control state. Therefore, local education agencies use standards and guidelines set by the Board of Education to select a curriculum that best supports the needs of their students. In Michigan, school districts have discretion to determine how the standards and guidelines will be implemented at the local level within the parameters of Michigan law. While health education is a requirement for graduation, districts can select the course content, methods, and instructional resources that will meet the requirement. If a district chooses to include a sex education unit or any sex education standards as part of the health education course, parents still have the right to opt their child out of sex education without penalty or loss of academic credit. That last piece about sex education is important. Here in Monroe Public Schools, we are opt-in for sex education, so it makes it, we need verification from every parent or guardian that their child is permitted to take part in that. 912 sex education standards are taught to our 8th grade students as well, if they elect, with parent permission, to take that course early. It helps open up the high school schedule, and that's why health education for high school credit is offered to our 8th graders. Our new standards, we go from standards and strands to practices and topics. Practice 1, self-awareness and analyzing influences. Practice 2, social awareness, relationship and communication skills. Information and resource seeking, decision-making and problem solving, self-management and goal setting, and advocacy and health promotion. Our health topics are balanced eating and physical activity, community and environmental health, healthy relationships, mental and emotional health, personal health and wellness, safety, substance use and misuse, and sex education. As you're flipping through the standards, you may see NA written on quite a few pages. You're going to see NA on every page that does not necessarily pertain to Monroe Public Schools, because we either don't have a specific health class for that grade, or we've elected, the Board of Education, the district has made a decision not to put those standards in place. So anything
NA means not.
not applicable.
Right, not,
Yep.
it doesn't, you kind of made it sound like it was not necessarily so,
That's
but
fair.
just so everybody's clear, it
Yes.
means not.
So,
Thank you.
so this is what, I guess, to give you a visual, MDE says that we're permitted to teach this much. Our Board of Education dictates exactly how much we teach, and the NA on the paper shows you what is not covered here in Monroe Public Schools. Now for the breakdown. That was the first section, essentially, and then I'm going to outline the next three sections, and then take any questions that you have. Section 1 is current state requirements and mandates. There are specific things that the state of education mandates students must receive by the end of grade 5, by the end of grade 8, and by the end of grade 12. Section 2 is the bulk of your general health education topics. Again, those are, we have formal health class for students, we have formal health class using the 912 standards, and those are, our 8th to 12th graders are eligible to take health class. And then lastly, Section 3 is sex education. Again, sex education is offered in health class for grades 9 to 12, or using the 9 to 12 standards, and it is also offered for 8th graders. And that last section, again, that's an opt-in requirement for every parent or guardian for their student to be present when sex education standards are being presented during class. So that is the first section of the health standards. I'm not sure if there are any questions so far.
You want me to go? The substance use, can you explain how that's being met so they know?
Yes, we're going to get to that in the state
Oh,
requirements.
all
But
right.
thank you.
That
Thank
was
you.
in,
I
that was in
love
my
it.
section here. The other thing was that, just so people know, that it is part of the standards set by Michigan Department of Education for the grade 5, because we did look to see, and they did change that to grade 5. That was particularly for the HIV and AIDS it's what we, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So what Ms. Myers is alluding to, the first section, section 1, are the state mandates. By the end of grade 5, students have to meet some standards. They're on page 19 if you want to follow along in your manual. It lists exactly what, by the end of 5th grade, what those students are required to have. The substance use and misuse standards are accomplished through 5th grade DARE. And then we have one sex education standard on page 19. And those students should be able to define communicable diseases, including HIV, and identify how they are and are not transmitted. So that is what the state says students must have by the end of 5th grade. Currently, the way old legislation was written, it allowed us to deliver those standards at every level. Our Board of Education made the decision to provide them to students at 6th grade when they were part of our K-6 elementary. The law has changed. In the back of your packet, you'll see this document. This will be in upcoming board briefs, but I wanted to give you kind of the history and what Ms. Myers was alluding to. This is how we came to the original decision to talk about this standard, Sex Education 5.3 on page 19. Oh, you don't have one? Yeah, mine.
I don't want to take yours. I was just letting you know for later. Because remember, I got my book. Are you sure you're good without this?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
We're not going to cover that. That's going to be in board briefs to kind of talk to you about the decision-making process, how it came out of the SEEB, how it went through public hearing, and how it was approved for 6th grade. In the future, you'll probably be seeing a motion to approve these materials for 5th grade, which will, I'm sure we'll cover in board briefs and at another board meeting. By the end of 8th grade, and again, this takes place on page 20 and 21, these are the things, the state mandates that need to be covered by the end of 8th grade. We have substance use and misuse. We have sex education standards, discuss signs and symptoms and potential effects of sexually transmitted infections, including HIV. Analyze ways to prevent STIs. Articulate the benefits of abstinence, postponing sexual activity, and determine strategies including abstinence that will reduce the risk of HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases. And then we have one safety standard, which is an introduction to CPR and the use of AEDs. Not all students will be taking health where they will get these standards. So we plan to accomplish these with 7th grade team sports. That is taught by Mrs. Gates. She is our 8th grade health teacher and teaches high school health to students. And by modifying the schedule a little bit, every 7th grader will be privy to substance use and misuse. They will see the board-approved HIV and AIDS communicable diseases video, and they'll also have an intro to CPR and AEDs in 7th grade team sports at Monroe Middle School to fulfill this requirement.
So can you maybe explain how they're going to be taught to use an AED?
Yes. I think that the most challenging part of using an AED is listening to the instructions and following the verbal instructions that come out of the AED. If you're able to do that, I think the biggest decision that you have to make is whether or not, like, if it's a small person or if it's a large person, which set of pads that you use, whether they're the child or infant pads or the adult pads. So they'll be opening up an AED. They'll be listening to the instructions kind of as an intro.
Just recommendation, could you maybe in one of the board meetings or work sections bring in and demonstrate for us?
Absolutely.
Or Sarah, right?
Yep, anyone. You know, and what I like to stress too is, you know, those aren't necessarily for, you know, the students in the building. They're for, a lot of times most of the time they're for all of us. So.
So the intent would be for the student to be able to use them as they deem appropriate
Yes.
at 7th grade?
in emergency situations, it might be
I'm just
you know,
asking.
a coach again may pass out and you've got 10 to 12 students that, you know, are going to be trained and taught where the locations of them and how to open it up and listen to the instructions.
Okay.
By the end of 12th grade, again, you have substance use and misuse. You have some sex education standards, or a sex education standard that is required by the state, specifically about STIs, HIV, identify signs and symptoms that might indicate a need to seek medical consultation, analyze factors that contribute to the behaviors that increase the risk of HIV and other STIs, and then again, more in-depth on CPR and AEDs. And again, that's a state mandate. Every student will receive this training when they take high school health, which is a requirement by the state of Michigan. And that concludes section 1, the state requirements, if there are any questions. Wonderful.
So one of the
Yes.
things in here, it says that that the law does not dictate how much time the schools must spend on the content. So
Correct.
if we're referencing 8 through 12, it's a semester, right?
Correct.
If you're talking 5th and 6th grade, I think my understanding was it was the slideshow and that presentation. So this is going to have to be more because now it's substance abuse and whatnot. So what are we thinking?
Well, if we go back to, if you're talking about the 8th grade standards, again, those will be incorporated into team sports.
Lower, 5th and 6th grade.
5th and 6th grade, DARE, and the communicable diseases slides that have yet to be approved for grade 5, but were approved for grade 6.
Okay, so
And-
those would be the two things. So
Correct.
it's not a whole process. It's probably about
It's not a whole thing.
Okay.
And what's nice, having Mrs. Gates, going the wrong way here. What's nice about Mrs. Gates, we can free up our nurses to do other things if she's able to implement these 8th grade requirements in team sports in 7th grade. Okay. Section 2. There's only one slide for section 2. Page 23 to 45 are K-8 general health standards. It goes back to what Ms. Meyer says. The Board of Education dictates how much time is spent, and we do not have any formal health class K-8. So page 23 to 45, you'll see NA on those pages because they're not applicable here at MPS. What is covered are pages 46 to 54, and those are your general health standards. And those 9-12 general health standards are taught to every 8th to 12th grader when they choose to take high school health, whether it's in grade 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12.
What? You're waiting for us to ask a question.
I'm waiting.
Tell me what question you want me
This
to
is
ask.
my last, what do you got? This is the last slide for section 2.
There's a disclaimer in here and it makes a note, so that kind of covers, the note says this section should not include anything that falls under sexual relationships or sex education, sexual relationship topics that fall under sex and these standards, guidelines, and must follow state laws on instruction. So I think that's in here a couple of times, so that clarifies
Yep.
any misconceptions in the language.
Yes, obviously, as teachers can do, because, make various connections throughout different material. If it's not explicitly, or if it is explicitly for sex education, that is the opt-in portion where it must be discussed.
Okay, explain what you're saying.
I'm
because-
saying that if
Because you wouldn't talk about anything sex-related outside of a health and sex curriculum.
Yep, you said it much better than I did.
Okay.
So
just clarifying.
If it is a sex education standard, it needs to be, all the students in that room need to have permission to listen to that part of the lesson. Teachers shouldn't be talking about sex education stuff outside the scope of sex education, which is opt-in.
That's what I thought this was
Yep,
referring to.
and that is, it's in every section the disclaimer about sex ed. Sex ed is sex ed, and if it's not, it's not. The last section, section 3, is sex education. There are 2 pages of sex education standards, or I'm sorry, what's not covered, page 55 through 65. The state does have approved sex education standards for grades 3 through 5. They also have them for grades 6 to 8. You should see an NA on those pages because those topics are not covered.
You said 55 through,
65.
Well, the
Is
first part is just more of an introductory to the health
just
standards.
following his page
But when you get
numbers.
to page 61, that's where it
Yep.
kicks in with a
So
great
your
strand.
55 through 60 doesn't need an NA is what you're suggesting?
Well, those are the general guidelines, so
Okay.
I stand corrected.
I just want to make
it's
sure
the
that
background.
I'm following
Yep.
what you're saying.
61 through 65 are grades 3 through 5 and 6 to 8, which do have an NA on them because they are not covered here in Monroe Public Schools. What is covered are 2 pages of sex education standards, page 66 and 67. I want to stress again that Monroe Public Schools is an abstinence-only district. So we teach abstinence as the most and only effective way to prevent unwanted pregnancy and prevention from STIs and STDs. These standards on page 66 and 67 are the 9 through 12 sex education standards, and students in grades 8 to 12 will have access to those in health class with parent or guardian permission. And the last slide goes along with that. Yep.
On number 5, on page 67,
Yes,
we
please.
talked about this earlier about looking at the language of that.
Yes.
Because it's,
Yep, there is language in there referencing to postponing sexual intercourse, but Monroe Public being an abstinence-only district,
then let's pull it. I don't see a reason to put it in there if it's not something that we're discussing. So evaluate readiness options and their respective outcomes regarding, and their outcomes, period.
so that would be something that the board would need to take official action on because we're not asking that this be approved. I'm giving a general overview on what our teachers are permitted and are not permitted to cover. There's a lot of things in here that our teachers aren't permitted to cover.
So the things that are not permitted to cover have an NA on them. This is the only area, and you highlighted it in yellow, that stood out as the language is not consistent with the rest of the language in the document. The other thing was, we discussed whether there should be a motion on accepting this, and I believe the understanding was it's not required because it's a guideline. So if it's a guideline and we have any input, and you're saying we require a motion to do that, I'm just trying to figure out where we're at.
Well,
I'm just saying, why have that in there? It doesn't make any sense.
So at the end of the day, this document is created by the Michigan Department of Education. And per that, this is just their guidance. And so when we're striking out their language, at the end, when it comes down to it, all our teachers can teach is absence. So they can't get into any of that information in here. And so if there's other spots where there's any kind of information that's given that's contrary to what we're allowed to teach, then they're in violation of it.
Well, what it comes down to is the document's under local control. So therefore, based on where we stand with things, that was the language. And the reason I brought this out earlier is, number one, you highlighted it in yellow. So therefore, it stood out. So for the first reason. The second reason is you have to discuss postponing those things. So you have to discuss them in order to say you should postpone them. That's not abstinence. And so those are contrary to one another. I'm not suggesting anything else except have that which you highlighted be consistent with all the rest of the language that is in here. That's my request. And I don't think it requires a board motion because the board's not voting on this.
No, but to pull that, at least we would need board consensus. That's your opinion?
So
But
why
other
would,
opinions might be
why would
different.
we need board consent?
I-
If
because
this
you're-
document's not part of the board,
What I'm saying is, your opinion is that should be pulled. The rest of the board members may not agree with that.
oh, I totally know that,
So
yeah.
we would at least need, I think, whether it's a formal vote or at least a consensus that the board agrees to pull that or not.
Well, I think a consensus in a work session would be suffice.
That could possibly. we can
I don't think we
discuss
need a
that.
motion. If anybody here wants to put their own input on it, I'm totally, I just gave mine.
And I'm, at the end of the day, that number 5 under sex education, 12.4 will not be, I guess in the way I'm reading it now, it can't be covered based on its,
But if you want to,
That or let people think about it. I'm not.
I think it clarifies itself. I'm confused with what we're concerned about. It says regarding decision about whether to engage in sexual activity, including abstaining, postponing sexual intercourse, and engaging in risk reduction practices. So the only thing it's allowed to be talked about is abstinence. So
no,
why are we,
risk reduction practices, that's not abstinence. So like David just said perfectly well when he just made that statement.
well, the other risk reduction practices are crossed out.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing you're left with, if you get rid of condoms and other barriers using birth control, is what? Is there something left that I'm not unaware of?
Postponing sexual intercourse.
So you'd have to have those discussions about postponing it and engaging in risk reduction in order to do that. So
It talks as postponing
I'm
sexual.
just giving you my opinion.
I know, I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. I'm not giving you a hard time. I'm just, I
Because
listen to
here's
you.
what it says. We do abstaining, right? Abstinence is it. In here, it says they're going to talk about abstinence and postponing and risk reduction practices. So if ours is only abstinence.
There's two different versions of the document out. Your version doesn't have a strike through of engaging in risk reduction practices. Mine does.
Oh, really?
Oh, well, I don't have that either.
Yeah,
No.
we don't have that.
Mine does.
Well, you're special
How'd
and
she
you got
get
one.
that?
Yeah, that's
well,
different.
oh, she may have,
Alright.
okay, so she may,
We'll go with
you know what, I
Mary's.
couldn't, it's highlighted in yellow because we want to give the board and our community perfect confidence that we know we're not talking about anything other than abstinence to reduce the risk of STDs, STIs, and unwanted pregnancy.
Mary, where's does yours end?
So the highlighted section that is not struck through reads as evaluate readiness, options, and their respective outcomes regarding decisions about whether to engage in sexual activity, including abstaining, postponing sexual intercourse. Done.
Okay,
Okay.
I can live with that. But that's not up to me, it's up to everybody else. But I could live with that.
And I apologize that there are,
I'm good with that too.
you know, that one was struck through more than the others.
Thanks, Mary. We
I'm
didn't
a
get
great
that.
listener.
Okay. And our last slide again is just an emphasis on what is not covered here at Monroe Public Health and sexual education, abortion, the Plan B pill, hormonal contraceptives such as pills, patches, inserted devices, spermicide, LGBTQIA plus community, gender identity, expression, orientation, condom distribution, and condom demonstration. So that is the standards. The pages that do not have NA are the pages that we do cover in our 912 health curriculum. And if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to provide some cliff notes and summarize that in board
David,
briefs.
This may be a stretch, but particularly at the upper grades, let's say grade 10, 11, 12, do you know if at the state level, they had any discussion about instructing them on the use of Narcan? I know that's readily available, like at the community college.
Any formal
Yeah.
formal instruction, I don't know, but I can reach out
Yeah.
to Vicki Loveland. Again, that's kind of like the ever evolving
Yeah.
what these are designed to do.
Yeah, if they're going to use an AED, that they might also be proficient in Narcan.
Be happy to ask.
I know our resource officers have access to it, but just it may be a benefit to the students.
So, my one question for the board was, David put this all together. I think you did a great job. I already told him
Thank
that,
you.
so I
Team
tell you
effort.
again.
Team
But I was questioning whether we need to make a motion that this would be what we're going to follow so that we're all on the same page. And, that was my suggestion. So I guess it'd be up to you all. Do we think we need a motion to say this is what we're going to follow and this is the way it's going to be or not? That's up to you all. I think so, but that's just my opinion.
Technically, David, that's what they're using today, right?
Beginning this fall.
Beginning this fall.
Other than the new additional, which would be like the vaping and some of those.
And I do think they've adapted their practices to talk about, whether it's sex trafficking, sexting, pictures on social media, and also as drugs have evolved, anytime Vicky's given us information, we've passed it along to our health teachers and counselors and things like that.
So they update. Like they're probably talking about Kratom now as well, so.
But couldn't they be considered like technical improvements? What do you call it, Andy? Technical
Kind
corrections?
of a correction. So it's more,
Just because it's dated and it's a document that we're going to reference, that was my reasoning.
What, so your reasoning is, why do we need a motion?
So my question is, if this is what we're going to follow, this instruction booklet,
Okay.
should the board make a motion and said, we are going to follow the Michigan Health Education Standards Guideline in here dated March 2026 and include that as part of what we do? Because our policies do not go where this one goes. And so that was my suggestion. So that way we have a clear standing, the board has voted on it, this is what we're going to be as of this date. It could be
Oh,
on-
then if you feel that way, then you should make a motion and see if someone supports it.
So this is a work session though.
Session, that's-
So this isn't curriculum. This isn't a curriculum.
It is not curriculum.
This is the state educational standards. And like, we don't decide those, like they've already been written. So I don't understand the goal of the motion.
because
So-
if it was to fail, I guess my question would be, if it failed, then what are we teaching?
So the reason I said that is because the Michigan Department of Education put down their standards. They are recommendations for boards to be able to follow. It's up to the local board that says, what are we going to pick up of that and what we're not? So that's why there's a bunch of NAs in this document, because other boards may pick that up. This board has chosen not to pick any of that up. So it was an idea. I'm not saying that we have to do it. That was my reasoning for it, because we don't have to do everything they say to do,
Well,
except for certain things.
True, but there's also state standards in every content area. So are we going to start doing this for music and math and ELA and all the other subject areas? We're going to review all the content standards for every content area. And like, truth be told, in reading, they're broken down by grade level. So then how far do we go when it comes to approving the state standards?
Just an idea.
Yeah, and actually, we're using this today with the exception of the updates. And the SEEB is dictating what we don't teach.
Right.
But, if.
It was
in a-
an idea,
if
that was
In a
it.
board meeting, you want to bring up a motion, that's certainly your privilege.
I'm just saying, in a work session, we discuss the ideas of why we should or shouldn't, or what we feel about whether we should or shouldn't.
Sure.
Just because it's a document that is very detailed on, we do this, we don't do this, we talk about this, we don't talk about that. I think it is different, Mary, than the other stuff that someone that teaches something else is going through that. Because I just saw this as different.
But the job of the board is to set policy and approve curriculum. This isn't policy and this isn't curriculum.
Up to anybody else.
Anybody else? Jump in? Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, David.
It's a pleasure.
Great job, sir. All right. All right, so as Dave is flipping it over so I can grab up. Here we go. And then, Jamie, you want to go ahead and hand out to the board? Yes, please. Well,
Again, if anybody wants to grab some food, don't be shy.
there it is.
David. Is Steve doing anything?
Whoa.
Oh, come on.
Why is that one doing that?
I don't know, I keep thinking about the AED thing.
It's only that
I
screen.
have a certain age that I use an AED.
That's a
So you gotta remember, an AED cannot do anything if you put it on there and it registers a heartbeat, registers anything, it won't work. Or if the pads are in the wrong locations, it won't work.
I think it'd be good for us board members to know how to use one.
Okay.
None of us are youngsters.
Right.
Terry brought up a good thing.
Being that I'll repeat myself, Kathy, that I am of a certain age. Yeah.
So if the Steve.
And I really don't know really how they work very well.
Yeah, no, that's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that'd probably be the
Well,
proper, that'd be the proper
Right.
procedure.
I agree.
Yeah.
So basically the kid.
No.
No, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Okay.
Most of the time I agree with you.
Okay.
It won't give you a command to shock.
We won't give you command to shock unless you need to shock. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Get some food? Good.
Oh, good. Yeah, brave man there, Steve. You see that?
He is brave.
So a 13-year-old.
I got
Get
it.
a free meal.
All right.
Okay, we got it up.
Yeah. All right. Won't allow it. Okay.
Yes.
Because I sit there and think if I put myself in it.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started on,
I don't know.
following up from our last board meeting, I'm sorry, work session on the budget. So as we talked at our last meeting, we need to reduce our budget by $5.5 million. So tonight, we're gonna go through, ways of how we believe we can get there, and the methodology. So the first thing I want to draw attention to is that it's the bottom of that long Gantt chart and really highlighting in here around the timeline. I think that's a very important piece of information. And so when we begin to really look at this, we have to think in terms of where we're at here tonight and then moving forward. That the Board of Education will be presented a balanced budget on June 23rd. Okay, so everything goes from June 23rd and moves us back. And so we already have board meetings, we already have work sessions in hand here. And so as we work through this tonight, we'll talk about that. The big one is that we put on our agenda, which is for May 11th. Okay, so we got the April 13th work session. We have some things we're going to need to be looking at approved potentially on the 14th, and then on May 11th, because Cassie can't just instantly put a budget together. Okay, so this is a work in progress right here. So those are timelines. What I want to do now is just run us to the top of our document here, which is we're going to get into the severance package. And I'm going to spend a few minutes here and we'll answer a lot of questions. The severance package potentially could generate between $2 and $3 million of savings. And I put that in our board brief so you could see the MOU with the administrators and with the teachers, and it's a certified staff severance package. Those that have 15 years of service at Monroe Public Schools, Cindy was, she would have been here tonight, but she is sick, but we have over 90 individuals that do qualify, okay? Yep, that number, once they went through and they validated, so that number has moved up.
Hey, Andy, could you just answer before you go on
Yep.
real quick? I read what you sent us, and you were talking between 17 and 25 is certified.
Yes, sir.
And then 17 to 25 administration. Is that one group, or is that two separate groups?
No, it's 17 to 25, and it's certified staff. So a certified staff member is a teacher and an administrator.
Right.
So it's blended.
The two are
The
together.
two are together. It's
Okay,
not
that's all-
two separate because.
that's what I need to know.
Yep, well, they are together, so it's a, and then, and so it's a certified individual. And so when we worked with our two unions, that's what we said, hey, understand that when we, because we have to have a memorandum of understanding with both the administrators and the teachers, that it is a blended number. What may help bring forth greater clarity is this document right here. I'm going to blow this one up to the best of my ability for everyone to see. So it talks about like a first-year teacher is a total compensation of $60,000, a 15-year plus teacher, and this is examples only with the teachers group, okay? And I'll get into the why here in a moment, why we had to do that.
So when we say 60,000, what would that be like a starting hourly wage?
No, there's no starting hourly wage for a teacher.
Okay. I meant,
This is salary. So when we say total
so
comp, this
60,000 would include insurance, benefits, ESOP
retirement,
benefit.
everything.
Fully loaded.
Yep.
So what would their wage portion of that be? Because isn't the,
First year teacher.
isn't it a benefit package typically a
42?
Current EA step one is 42.
BA one is 42.
42%?
42,000.
EA step one, first year teacher, freshman.
Okay, so the 18,000 would be the rest of the benefit.
Yes.
So that's what, $20? $18 an hour?
No. You can't convert any of this to hourly.
I know that. I know.
Okay. So we've tried to put together is, in the severance plan that it is a way to reduce potential costs. When it's all said and done, and this graph that you have in front of you shows the range of a teacher. And so teacher of 15 years of service is 110,000 up to 130. And the reason being is you have the amount that is going into the retirement that's the state school is paying for, but you also have the benefit package because of health insurance. There's a big change gap right there between single subscriber all the way to full family, what the district picks up. And so I wanted to just create the example for you to see is that if we have to replace a teacher one for one, the district would save $30,000 to $50,000 in this model. If we don't have to replace that teacher, the district would save $90,000 to $110,000 after it's paid out the severance. So I gave an example below of 20 teachers take the plan who will make a total compensate, and then a total comp is $130,000 or $2.6 million. You can look at a lot of different variables there. Severance payout is $400,000. Total savings is $2.2 million. If we had to replace 4 of those teachers, you'd have a cost of $240,000, or you would have an overall savings of $1.96 million. The challenge we have in all of this is we can't sit here today and say for certainty that there would be 10 people take it, 25 people take it. We cannot sit here for certainty and say how many people would be replaced, because there's a lot of variables that go into it. And in a moment, I'm going to bring up our not staffing, but the class size information, because I know that's an integral part of the conversation, because it all weaves together here. Because at different areas, for example, we don't know, could it be 2 or 3 administrators? I don't know. And so I can sit here and try and create all different scenarios of what it maybe could be. I know that this is, if you had to replace, if it was 20 teachers, and you replace every single teacher, you will save $1 million. And all you can do is map that out, and you'll see it's $1 million savings. And so that's where, so you start to look at that range of like, will you actually have to replace every single teacher? Would you have to replace every single administrator? And that answer is, it's going to come out here in a moment. I'm going to have both David and Terry speak on that.
So in order to continue with this scenario,
Yes, ma'am.
there would have to be an agreement that we believe that finding a way to replace teachers who have a great value to our system. We've always talked about that. Long-term teachers bring a great value. We've always supported that. So to replace our teachers that have been here a long time with brand-new teachers, I mean, in order to continue with this, that would have to say we all support that. And I don't know that any decisions made that we support either reducing teaching staff or wanting to put a plan together so our long-term staff leaves. Like, I don't want our long-term staff to leave. I
So
don't.
when you begin to break the numbers down, if you think about, for example, the number of buildings we have in our school district, and you think about the number of staff that we have in each building, and you break that out, what you're really looking at is 2 people per building.
Again,
And
you'd have
so-
to come with the conclusion that we support replacing long-term teachers. And I don't know that this board has even said that that's something we want to consider.
Okay, I've got
You
that.
see where I'm going?
I totally got where you're going.
Okay.
So we're presenting a plan that has the potential to reduce our expenditures between $2 and $3 million. Tomorrow night, you'll have the opportunity to either vote that plan up or vote that plan down.
So so there's always, because I remember saying, what is the other plan? Like, there has to be another plan. We can't say,
If you
if
vote
you
this
vote
plan
this
down-
down, we don't have another plan. Like, there has to be if you vote that down, then
Well,
we will look at
so
something.
when I go back through this document right here, this will help you see the monies.
Okay.
Okay?
And recognize, Darla, 80% of the general fund is salaries.
I
So-
totally understand we have to
But-
do that, but
that has to be part of the plan.
there is, how many staff in our, over 1,000, 1,200 staff members?
So when you look at us.
So I'm just saying, huh?
But we're talking about certified.
I
That would
understand,
be
that's what
eligible for
Andy
this.
chose. Andy
Certified
chose
with
to look
15
at the
years or more.
certified staff,
Which
or
includes.
administration, I don't know what word
Well,
you
it
want to
includes
use.
admin as well.
Yeah, but then you're going to see also in other areas where those reductions will be made too.
Right, so
It's not
if we,
just-
I mean, we're looking at budget options, and
That's
the
it.
severance is just one piece of the pie
Right.
That's it.
in terms of the budget, and it's voluntary. So if we can offer a voluntary solution to staff who might want to jump at the chance, then it's just one step forward.
That's all it is.
So as a
If
point
we
of clarification.
don't have the severance plan, we still have to figure out the balanced budget.
Understood.
Yep.
A point of clarification. So if a teacher, a 15-plus year teacher, are we talking about someone that would be 37 years old?
Yep.
Cashing out of the system?
Could be.
They're not fully cashing out of the system.
They're not retiring. They're not subject to
leaving here.
retirement.
So
They're
there are-
just
to
severance
bring
from our
clarity-
district.
I think we talked
Yeah.
about this before. If you're a 15-year teacher, you take the severance package, you go somewhere else, you're going to start at step 1. There aren't many people who are going to want to go back and start at step 1. I just don't think, I don't find that believable. Maybe a couple people, but certainly not that many.
So, we're going to stick with the severance conversation, but I know that one of the big questions and conversations has been around class sizes and all of that. And so I want to make sure that Terry and David, I know in board briefs, there's been information. So if you look at this document was provided to you a few moments ago here, I'll blow that up because I know I can very easily there. There we go. Terry, please.
Sure, thank you. So this chart shares some up-to-date data on our Y56 class size information, and I'm going to talk in more detail about that, but I just want to preface this conversation that we're going to have that it is not our goal or our intent in any way to increase class size past the maximum amounts that we have set. What we want to do is to increase the minimum. So we have some class sizes that are really small in our district, and we'll talk you through what that looks like. But at no point in this conversation do we want to increase class size past the maximum amounts that are already established. So in this chart, it shows you by grade level, Y5 through sixth grade. Last year, when we worked on the elementary redesign project, we committed to some smaller class sizes that are than from what are in our teacher's contract. So for Y52, we committed to 18 to 22 children in a class. Third and fourth grade, we committed to 22 to 25. And then in grades 5, 6, we committed to 25 to 30 students in a class. In that next column, it shows you the contractual class size. So within our teacher's contract or their bargaining unit, there are specifics for what class size maximums are. And we thought we would just show you that because that had been part of the conversation as well in terms of what the contract actually states. That fourth column shows you the 25-26 average class sizes. So if we looked across the district, we wanted to just show you what the average is of the number of students that are in each class by grade level. And so when you look at all of those averages, we are below what we had committed to doing. So we have some smaller class sizes than we've ever had in Monroe Public Schools. And then that last column shows you the range of class size. And that's where we're going to dig into for this next part of our conversation. So the range represents, if you look at all of the Young 5 classrooms in the district, it's the classroom that has the smallest class size up to a classroom that has the largest class size. So in our Young 5s, for example, when you look at those classes, the smallest class size we have is a class size of 9, which is quite small. Up to one teacher does have a class size of 22, and that happened in a building where there were some move-ins that happened after the school year progressed, and so it was just one of those things that happened. As we think about these class sizes, we've thought about a couple of different things that we could do that would help to bring some of those class sizes up a little bit. So one of those things is split classrooms. So when we looked at, I see Mary shaking her head.
You remember that we assure you there will never be any split classrooms at Monroe Public Schools?
Yeah, when we had conversations last year, we committed there would be no encore classes on carts. There would be smaller class sizes, that there wouldn't be splits.
Right.
So that was something that we wanted to just share with you as a part of a conversation tonight. Because if we look at some examples of what that is, so we have, for example, in that building where there is a class size of 9 in Young 5s, there's also very small kindergarten classroom numbers. So there was a 13 and a 14, but we couldn't combine the two kindergarten classrooms of the 13 and the 14 because that would put us at one class of 27. But if we were to be able to make a Young 5 kindergarten split, it would create, I don't know what the numbers are, but it would create 2 smaller classrooms. So just to think about what those examples are.
So I just want to ask, because my mind is going. So over all those conversations we had in the fact that smaller class sizes increase academic instruction, it's better for the teachers, it's better for the students, it's better for that. Split classes were a definite no. I think that was across the board. Everybody did not like split classrooms because it created another environment that wasn't as conducive to learning. So that was last year. So this year, we're being convinced that these are all now positives. Split classes, if you're suggesting it, that would have to be a positive. Do you think it's a negative that you're suggesting?
So I say, I would actually argue that that if you are looking at and sitting down with a teacher, you have the following options. There are some teachers that would say, please give me a split class because student behaviors and academics have shifted. But the other part is when you start to really look into numbers going, if I can make it so I don't have to have a single move-in, please give me 26 students for the whole year, and I'm not going to have a single move-in. So it's a conversation. All we're sharing with you is getting opinions too. So what are areas that we think we can live in? Where are areas that you can live in? Where are areas you're not going to live in? I mean, So that's part of the conversation. But if we don't have even this level of a conversation, then we're kind of in really in a ticklish spot.
Would it make more sense to move those 9 kids in that young fives classroom to maybe a neighboring elementary? I mean,
You're getting to my question of redistricting.
I mean, like,
Yeah, so we, and that was another thing that we were looking at too. When we do look at, for example, Waterloo, they do have very small class sizes at Waterloo. And so one of the options we were also thinking about in terms of ways to increase class sizes was moving some of the boundary lines, like looking at where children live and seeing where we could move some boundaries that, would increase. I think to be honest, if you only elected to move 9 young 5 children out of a building, I think that's hard because they probably have siblings in the building. It creates another strain on the transportation system with bus routes. And then do those students stay in that particular building their whole Wi-Fi 4 school elementary years, or do they move back for kindergarten? There's parents who have their hearts set on their child being a Manor Bobcat and might not be happy about, their little one going to Raisinville or Hollywood. So I think there's a lot involved in these decisions, but we do feel that it is our responsibility to bring you the possibilities that can exist when we think about class sizes.
thanks for that perspective. I appreciate it. I really wasn't thinking about.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, if I had a
hard.
kindergartner starting out right
It's
now,
hard,
I
and
wouldn't with my
there's not clear-cut answers because we,
It's hard.
we're in the business of people, right? And we're in the business of families, and
And I would say that if you have to do a split at all, it would make sense to do it at young 5 kindergarten grade levels and ages rather than a 2-3 split, a 4-5 split. I mean, that's just.
I would agree.
my
The
thought
more
pattern.
advanced the curriculum gets and the more complex the learning becomes. So like, just for an example, like Y5 in kindergarten, learning numbers in young 5s goes to 30, learning numbers in kindergarten goes higher, exposing children to more advanced concepts in math and reading would definitely not be a harm in any way. There's a lot of overlap with those curriculums.
I've also heard it the other direction too, that someone whose student was in kindergarten that had, because we did do the splits with the Y5s before, I believe.
Yes, we
And
have.
so that when there was Y5s in there, they didn't feel like their kids came out of kindergarten with the same understanding as the kindergarten down the hallway because they had to split their time up between a Y5. So they felt like their student was already behind. So
Yeah.
when the no splits came up, people like that cheered.
Yeah, there's no perfect way.
And I guess I would wonder, like, what would the class sizes look like if you're doing a split? Because if you've got 27 kindergartners, 13 and 14, plus 9 young 5s, that's how many kids? 36. And if you divide that by 2 classrooms,
It'd be 2 classes of 18.
which is like right
Yeah.
top for that
Right,
grade level.
right.
Terry, are most of the classes in Waterloo well below the max? Are any of them touching the max or just below the max?
I do have that if you give me just a minute. And I know Kelly's here, so Kelly can,
Our first grade classrooms, I believe, both have 18 to 19 students, so kind of at that 20.
Okay.
Yes.
I know that we only have 1 third grade classroom at 24, because we did reduce a teacher in 3rd grade. And 2nd grade is right at that 20 mark. It would be like our young 5s kindergarten numbers that are currently low.
Low.
yeah, 4th grade numbers are low at 14 and 13.
Yeah.
Only for certain classrooms that fall into the same categories. You can't split them up. Therefore, you can't do a 1, so you have to split them. So on the Y5 and the K, Y5 is 20, K is 25. Which, if you do that as a split, which would you go by, the 20 or the 25?
We would try to make our very best efforts to stay at that 20. Where do you, 25 for young
I'm just reading
fives?
your chart. Y5s, contractual class size is 20, kindergarten's 25. So if you have any Y5s in that student per this, it should be at 20.
We would try to make that as low as we could, absolutely. And when we.
But you'd be willing to go up to 25 is what I'm asking.
Well, it's like I said, it's tricky to give definite guarantees because what if a student moves into that area in October or November and they need to be placed in a classroom. So initially by design, we would want to go with the lower number. Is it possible that circumstances could present themselves that put that class size over a little bit? That is a possibility.
And that'd be okay contractual class size because Y5s would then have more than the contractual amount. The only reason I'm
So
asking it.
There's mechanisms inside the contract to address class size.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought it was in the contract.
So if they go over
Right,
by
they get so much.
any
Oh,
number
you
of
get more money
students,
if you
they
go
would
over.
call it overload compensation.
Oh, okay. And teachers are good with that?
Well, no.
I'm just asking, I don't know.
So you're back to the rock and hard place.
We're just
We want-
expected to make a decision on this tomorrow. So.
No, this is information, this part's information. This
There's
one
no
right here-
decision that
'cause
we
this
are
is no decision,
asking
because like I
for.
said, if you replace every teacher that took the severance, you're gonna save $1 million. So that's the part of it. What we're showing you though is that, and we did it this past year at Waterloo, we had a couple classes, or a class where I think it was small, and so we needed to collapse it and make a move. And so that's just the stuff that we do each year. When people are talking about class sizes, we wanted you to be aware of what our class sizes are, what our contractual limits are, what our commitment levels are. That's what we're not going above unless, like Terry said, kids move into that area. We will need to do some work though this year, because I even said it 1 year ago that we're going to have to still take a little bit of time to readjust some lines
Balance.
to get our buildings balanced. And so we're very close.
Districting?
That's moving some lines to get those level, get those buildings balanced. We felt like we had Waterloo where it should be, and it still is light. So we've got to make that adjustment, because if you have a building that is light in numbers, that does matter for your class sizes. And it's a matter of, when we say class size, we're just saying moving the bottom number up, not the top number, just getting the bottom up.
Yeah.
And so that's why I can't sit here tonight and say with certainty that this building, this teacher took the severance package, we're replacing or not replacing, because I can't sit here and guarantee that. It's back to, we go through the process of, we look at every single number of every single student that's in that building who's coming back, and then we make those decisions appropriately. And there's some that are just easy peasy, like that classroom has to be replaced. But then you get into our secondary education, that shifts a little bit, and what that begins to look like. So you got a question?
Yeah, plus, we have to recognize too, our enrollment continues to drop. It is slowing, which is good. We lost about 50 students from last year to this year. The year before, it was roughly about 80 to 90. So it is slowing, but we're still losing enrollment as well.
So, the other thing is, based on what you just said, that would mean that we are okay with not replacing teachers and reducing our reducing the amount of teachers.
If we don't have a classroom for them to teach in, we would.
So
If the numbers present themselves where you don't need to have a teacher, we're not just going to put
So-
a teacher in there.
I'm just trying to understand, because if we are looking at our academics and we need to improve our academics, I think everybody understands where we sit academically. Reducing teachers, increasing class sizes is absolutely contrary to that.
But
So
go back to what I said a few moments ago. We're not increasing class size. We're not going above the limits. We're just saying, if you look at, we have some classes that could potentially be at 18, and we have 11 students in it. We're saying that's what we're trying to
never
move.
said I thought 30 kids in a classroom was a good idea. So
No one, but please, no one's ever mentioned 30 students in a class.
right here, if you're going to the high side, that's
But if you also look to that second column, 25 to 30. And that's in the 5th and 6th grade. And then we
Yeah,
go.
5th and 6th
move
is
up.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's what it
I'm
also
saying.
says there.
4th, 5th, and 6th are contractual 30.
No, 4th grade is 25, ma'am. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, in the
contractual.
teacher's contract, it's
Yeah.
30.
Contract.
Yep.
I'm just following the chart.
Yeah.
That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Andy, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, ma'am.
Each year previous to the current academic year, we have teachers that retire. Or we have teachers that leave the school district for a variety of reasons. When those vacancies come up, for whatever reason, you, Cindy, sit down and evaluate, do these positions need to be posted? Do these positions need to be filled?
Correct.
So the process that's in front of us with the MOUs and the buyout, whatever severance, whatever term you want to use,
Yep.
is parallel to an existing practice. It's just there's now an incentive for folks that might be at that point where they're like, maybe, I don't know. Now they would just get a really beautiful, like, thank you for your service gift.
So I think where you're heading is that lots of times, and I shared this 2 weeks ago, is through attrition, these things happen at Monroe Public Schools. The problem with attrition is it takes a long time for that to happen. And so for us to present a balanced budget, we have to expedite the movement. And that's what the severance package does, is it expedites it. So we know, for example, okay, well, hey, we only are reducing our budget by $1 million through the severance package. Well, that means we have other areas now we got to start digging further into, or do we have to look at particular layoffs, or what do we have to do? So that's all that does, is it moves that conversation up sooner rather than later. But you're right, every single year we analyze when anybody leaves this school district at this time, and we've been doing it, is does that position get replaced in totality? Is it a blended position? Is it fully eliminated? And it doesn't matter if it's from a teacher to administrator to every single position gets analyzed that way.
So the severance package you were talking about, to the best of our ability, are teachers on board with what's being offered?
So in talking with the union leadership, because if I went and talked to individual teachers.
I didn't expect you to talk to individual
that'd be,
teachers.
Considered unfair
You
labor
could-
practice, and I
right,
will not do
absolutely.
that.
I understand that.
To my union leadership that's out there, okay?
Understood.
There's a whole bunch of them. I see
Yep.
them all.
I'm just making sure I'm bringing that clearly out, that being appropriate, is that very much in favor of this. And the reason is they know that we have to make adjustments. And they like the idea that we give people options in doing so. And it's done at the certified level. I wish we could take and offer it at even a non-certified level, but the math just doesn't work. And so that's why nothing's being presented at the non-certified level. It's too vast of a problem where we would lose financially as a school district. And so the severance package is a way to go. And so I want to answer any other questions. I want to dive back into that if there's no other questions, just to bring some clarity to everyone that still is here.
I do have a question, Andy. Shouldn't we be looking at our hiring policies? If we go on the premise that we have a declining enrollment every year, what's going to be our policy on replacing people? I mean, if we keep losing kids, we don't need that many bodies. What's going to be our policy going forward? I mean, just for the term, a 2-for-1 hiring policy.
Yep.
If I lose 2 positions, I hire 1.
And
I mean, that's how it's done in the corporate world.
And that's what, when we said, like, there's positions that we have had that we don't replace them. And there's and so as we go through this, if key positions take it, they're not going to get replaced. And we'll bring it to you and say, okay, this one's not being replaced, this one's not being replaced, this one's not being replaced. And it's not necessarily a teacher either.
Right.
It's certified staff.
I just don't understand
And so,
teacher decline in numbers.
and so what we've been trying to do in our system, though, is do a lot of work through attrition, okay? Rather than just going, okay, we're going to do a layoff well, that's basically the only way we can do that now. So the idea is by using this mechanism, it potentially could grab a large number of individuals, both teachers and administrators, and by then it makes so that, all right, we've balanced that system of, as far as the certified staff goes, okay? But again, every single year, we analyze grade, class sizes, and if someone leaves, you know, at a particular building, does that particular position get replaced or not replaced?
I guess I'm looking at it, you know, from the perspective, if we hire somebody, they should be able to think that they're gonna be able to stick around for the long term.
Yes.
You know, because I really don't want to be sitting here a year from now and doing this all over again.
And
You know, we're
that's the
messing with somebody.
message.
I'm
and
sorry.
That's the message with the severance
Yeah. Right.
option, is because otherwise, yeah, we could look at layoffs, we could look at pink slips and take,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the last 20 that were just hired and say, sorry. You know, but this is giving people an option.
Sure, I get that. That
So-
wasn't the point I was trying to make.
I know, the MSU just came out with a report on staffing, and their staffing report in one quick nutshell was 8,000 teachers were hired in the state of Michigan or got their license in the past year, in the previous year. And 7,600 and some odd of them had either left the profession or left the state and stopped teaching. So the report is a bunch of pages long, but the state of Michigan cannot continue at the rate for which it's doing. So that's why we hired that position, which I don't think ever got filled, was how do we retain staff? You know, the PD was how do we retain staff? The wages increases was how do we retain staff? But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be producing the results that we were hoping. Was that referencing you appropriately?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
You know, I just, like I said, whoops, sorry. Like I said, I don't want to come back here again next year and say, gee, we got another $5 million deficit. You know, we got to cut heads.
Right.
The-
Yep. Well, we
if-
were
if-
having a sidebar over here too.
If that was to happen, we all need to go straight to Lansing.
Yeah.
Okay, is where that would sit right now.
Yeah.
But if
Because,
we had, let's say we're looking at, you know, 17 to 25 taking the severance, and let's say 10 of those are special ed teachers. We still need to hire 10 special ed teachers. We probably need more than that, actually. So there are some positions that
some are gonna get
we're not
fully
going to save
replaced.
as much.
No, and
Depends
that's,
on what class they're teaching.
Yep.
Very much.
I think, Gary, to answer your question further is, if schools can continue to produce incoming teachers, we may have an opportunity, and there's a lot of districts that won't go above, for example, paying a person more than that step 3 or 4, okay? We have not been in that luxury for a few years where we've just had to have staff. And so we might have a person who wants to transfer in, and so we'll pay what would be considered top dollar, okay, on the step system. And so when the person retires, going, okay, we could catch a break, we didn't, okay? And so that's the flip of all of this is. And so it's painful, okay? There's just no other way I can describe that. But to bring some clarity to what, Carrie, what you were saying is that there is no promise of a future buyout. If a severance package is put together and the board approved it and it goes through, most likely in this district, you won't see another one for many years because it will have already done the job it did right now. And so, and it's back to, it's always a math problem. And that's where this one sits is, was it the right amount of money put on the table to garner the difference and having that $30,000 to $50,000 savings or up to a $90,000 to $110,000 savings was the right amount that would bring on that point of it. I want to talk process, and then we'll keep going with any further questions. In regards to the severance package, should the Board of Education approve it on tomorrow night? The timeline works out to be this way. It's a 45-day open window. We have set up the system to where individuals that qualify will receive an email from the district that they qualified, and if they want to go into the election, then they just fill out one. It's a Microsoft form that timestamps it. That creates the tracking that we need. Then there are documents that have to be printed off and signed, and so then there's a period of time. Once they sign those documents and they're validated in the HR office, then they're on what's called a 7-day window of rescission. And it'd be literally like this. If they were to turn them in right now on Monday, the 23rd of March at 7:14, it'd be timestamped and that your window ends on March 30th at 7:14. Okay, so that is exactly that number. If we have 25 people that put themselves in for it and and the list is actually larger, there would be a waiting list, and that's why we're using that timestamp system with the Microsoft form. Then someone opts out of taking the severance, which they have that 7-day window, they can. Then it goes to that next person in line. And then the timeline for that person starts when they've turned in all their documents and it's been given to them.
So the entire selection process is a first come, first serve.
First come, first.
Straight out.
Straight out. And that was done in this manner, so then that way it's fair and equitable. Everybody gets emailed at the exact same time. Everyone has equal opportunity, if they want it or not, that qualifies. The other part is, I know that, and this is mainly really for our people that are sitting out here that are taking part in this, is we have an April 1 deadline on our teacher's contract. And so that April 1 deadline, that one, and I've talked to Matt Steele about this, that date is going to fluctuate. And so no matter what, because the severance package, should the board approve it, is the primary driver. And so we're going to just extend that date out because people have a 45-day window to make decisions. And so that April 1 date would be moved out. So that will be put in the email for all of our employees that are wondering, okay, what's going to happen with the April 1 date? They're knowing that tomorrow's the 24th, that date's coming up. So we recognize that April 1 date is part of it. The other part is this, is if we do not get that 17 number and we decide, okay, well, hey, the math doesn't work, okay, because too few people took it, then we will still keep a window open for those that did want to retire on that April 1 date. So the April 1 date, for everyone that's listening, the April 1 date is movable, okay? And for those that want it. The key is, though, is because, like Darla, you said, it is first come, first serve. So the first 25 in the door would be the ones that would receive it, and then the timeline is on.
So
Now,
if someone's retiring, they could still put in for this and retire.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just asking. I just wanted to make sure that that option existed because I think the last time there was a bunch of people that retired like in one of those years.
Oh, yeah, no, this is only for people that are currently employed at Monroe Public Schools whom are still, and I appreciate it because I think I want to bring clarity here, is we have had some people that have retired and rehired, okay? They don't qualify.
I don't qualify?
Nope. Sorry. And so it's only.
Now you opened it. Now we got to
Nope,
talk about you,
nope,
John.
No, so it's only for those employees who
Look at Steve.
are employed at Monroe Public Schools and are being paid, we're paying into retirement services for them. And again, back to, please understand, there's no age discrimination because that's why we have in there the 15 years of service or more. So that way we don't even get into that realm. We give people the opportunity to make a decision.
So they can retire and still get the $40,000.
They would actually. And so.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's clear.
So the other caveat is this, is we did investigate between, the reason why you have the 220s or the 25,000 is for some people, they would want to take the 25,000 because they're going to just up and go do something else. We did investigate using a 457B plan, and we can't do that. And the reason is this, is that both the employee and the employer would get hit with FICA on that. And so the 403B is the only mechanism for a special pay plan that doesn't touch FICA retirement, it doesn't touch anything. It goes into that 403B. And so, yes, work with your finance person because I believe you have to be 59 and a half to pull that money without any kind of a penalty. So, but that's between you and your finance person to address that conversation there.
Nodding heads out there. I'm
Okay.
watching all the heads
But-
nod.
We wanted to, again, back to the power of our employees, have the choice between, do I want to take $25,000 and have that in July? It would be in their account at the end of July, or take the 220s. Because remember, though, there are some employees that would have the opportunity if they decided to, for example, it was a retiree, and I know this is going straight to people that retire, and I understand this world very well, is that you're gone for 1 month, But then basically you could go back and work in a public school system in the state of Michigan, September through December, make $15,000, and then starting in January, you're permitted to make whatever. So for some people, mathematically, it's a really good situation for them.
So they could come back into Monroe.
They could if there was a position.
After 6 months.
If they did the September, if there's a position in September, then the amount that they can make is limited.
Where would they come in at, though? Would they come in at where they left off, or would they come
And
in
that's
at
back to
zero?
what Gary was saying, is we're back to our practices, right? Is that, well, I would anticipate in that one, just putting it on the table, because that's a conversation with our union, is a person coming back in, it will most likely be at that step one.
If you'd like, I
Go
can
ahead.
answer that question because we do have several folks that have retired, come back as an interventionist, which is just a daily rate, and then now have moved back into the union as a teacher again. And we did honor their previous service, and they were brought in, like if they had left at the MA 15, which is the top of the scale, they were brought back in on that same scale step. They were not granted back necessarily their seniority place. They were put at the point of which they returned.
So
But
let
we
me
did-
understand that. Go ahead. Someone retires, they've been here 20 years. They do their retirement. They get the $40,000 because they took it right now. They come back in for 6 months as a position, and then after 6 months, they come in at the same place that they left. So
That is potentially a scenario that could happen if we had a position open and that person desired to be.
so that wouldn't
full-time.
benefit this at all,
So, but going back.
because you're coming back at the same, plus you paid out 40 grand.
So what we're
for
giving.
6
right?
months to be off.
I'm going to help you right here, really quickly, is we're giving you the parameters of which the state of Michigan allows a person to go back to work that was a teacher or an educator, was in the retirement system, okay? Is that you can come back in and make whatever you want after 6 months being away, okay? Now, at Monroe Public Schools, we're going to have, that becomes a conversation for us, is when if we have a retiree and they want to come back and work, we may have to look at what is our pay structure there, because again, what works, what doesn't work. And so, but that's a conversation with us and the union.
And I was only describing scenarios that have previously occurred, severance package not on the table at the time those people retired.
That's why I was applying it to this, because potentially, based on what I just said, that's a real scenario. Because we can't discriminate on our hiring practices.
Correct.
So if you use Carrie's example, as a special ed teacher, took the retirement, took the 40,000, came back in, they could be hired right back at the same rate because we know special ed teachers are needed.
So, but
That is a possibility.
Okay.
right, but they couldn't come back fully until January.
I get it.
Because they'd only be allowed that 15,000. But that's where I said we're back to what has been our practice and what will be our practice moving forward, and that's how we control our budget. Okay, so back to we could limit, say, okay, we're only going to go to step 5, or we're only going to go to here. And so for a teacher that has retired, okay, in the future, if they want to come back to Monroe, well, our salary for you is this, okay, and if you want to work making that, you can. There are people that will, because they look at it and go, my retirement is, I'm already getting this from my pension, and I'm going to go make this. I'm actually still making the same or equal amount, and so I want to get back in because something is better than nothing. And so, but I don't want to monkey or muddle this all up. The severance package has nothing to do with the ability for Monroe Public Schools to rehire, because the other rule is we cannot guarantee somebody work back here, a spot, okay? That is,
That's part of the rules for retiring.
part of the
You have to have
rules.
a
Andy
bona
threw it
fide-
out there, so I just went with it.
I'm just saying that there are people in here that will retire and they're gonna go work at some other school district and they're gonna smile all the way to the bank.
Or sub.
Or do something else. And so I wanted to just bring clarity to the severance package that, should the Board of Education approve it, what that process looks like and how that all goes. So before I go any further into the Gantt chart, is there any other questions on the severance materials? Excellent. Okay. So.
Yeah, because that's just whether we're going to do the severance. That's not what we're going to do after that.
That's exactly it, ma'am. That is exactly it. So,
Covered everything.
yep, we've crushed that one. So our next item is Orchard Building transition. And what we're here tonight to talk about is the Orchard, and the potential of what it could be, what it is, and so our conversation tonight is still at high level. We'll come back to the board on April the 13th because we're going to listen closely to you tonight as far as information needed. And then if the board wants to make any formal decision, it would be on April the 14th. And so there is nothing being decided tonight. What we want to share is I've asked David to take and go over some information with you in regards to Orchard and thought patterns we have. And I know we have Steve and James with us tonight and others. So, David?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Shaw. So I guess to give a little background on some of our thoughts, I know that I put in board briefs class sizes around the middle school, and those are hovering currently for the 8th graders, roughly 22 students per class. The current 7th graders, about 18 and a half students per class. Our high school, Steve and his team, 25 in English language arts, 26 in history, 25 in Spanish, 26 in math, 27 in science. The max class limit for our secondary buildings is, for those subjects, are 33. And when I guess the middle school over the past 5 years has their enrollment has dropped 65 students from 2021. Monroe Middle School used to have, in 2015, they used to have 853 students. Next year, the middle school is projected to have under 600 at 589. Monroe Virtual from 2021 to 22 had 217 students, then 190, then 174, then 169, and currently this year they have 160. Orchard in 2021-22 had 130, then 103, then 113, then 94, and currently 83. And those are all taken on the count day. If we talk about class size at Orchard, there are 12 students rostered per class period. And when we talk about our decision-making process, we're taking the wonderful students and the incredibly talented staff at Orchard out of the equation, and we're looking at pathways, offerings, services, and how we can program for our students. I will say that honestly, if you dial it back to 2023, the box around Monroe High was this big for what type of programming they could offer students who might be at risk, students who might be credit deficient, students who may have experienced significant trauma. We're happy to say that Steve and his team have created a space where the box is exponentially bigger because of Trojan Academy, where class size is roughly 1 to 30. Where, if we talk about class size virtual, we've got our virtual instructors with 50 to 80 students. So again, we're talking about efficiencies. And what we've seen is that, or what we believe is that at Monroe High School, Steve can offer programming for students, whether it's currently in Trojan Academy, whether it is some sort of blend where they receive some sort of virtual education and go out to regular courses, whether it is virtual, which is proposed to be at Monroe High School next year, or if it is some sort of hybrid of the two that we haven't come up with yet, because, the severance, when we ask questions, I'll ask a question to Andy and he'll say, hold on, David, we got to first see if the severance package passes. When James or Steve will have a question for me and I go like this and they go, I know, we have to wait and see if the severance package happens, because that is really the first domino to fall, to see what our staffing looks like. And then if the Orchard proposal to shift services under Monroe High to Monroe High's roof, then the next step would be to look at the individual decision for each individual student at Orchard and virtual and what they want. Because no one is going to make students fit where they don't want to fit. It is an individual and family decision. And Steve and James want to facilitate that conversation. So that is some of the background information which led to these discussions of shifting services from Orchard to Monroe High School, with all of our 912 being consolidated under one roof.
Dave, would you say it's fair to say the fluctuation of Orchard's attendance is harder to peg because on count day it may be a little less reliable? Is that a fair statement?
I'm not sure I know how to answer that question.
What's the enrollment?
83.
Yeah, that'd be better. So the enrollment's 83. So max would be 83 if they all showed up.
If they all showed up.
I thought
I thought that was okay. I thought you said that was attendance. So that
This is what was on count day from the fall.
You can't have more than enrolled. You can't do that.
I don't understand.
If you said 89's the what did you say the count day was?
83.
They have,
Oh, I thought you said it was 80.
And it does fluctuate. So, James and
somewhere I thought it was
James
higher.
and I will have conversations, and James have serviced 120 some different students.
Yep. Right.
Because it happens at every school, but at our school, because of the nature of the school, things fluctuate more often. We have transiency that happens. So I'm still in talks with the high school.
Do you want to come up to the microphone, James?
So then it is true that the fluctuation is a little greater at Orchard.
Yeah, so if you look at any one of those years, that's a count that you gave. At any point in the year, it might be 20 more or 10 less, usually not too many less, but they might go up. And it also depends on time of year. So we're just coming out of a trimester start. So I've been working with Steve and his crew, mostly his crew, but Steve and I have conversations about with the counselors and with special education teachers, how to make these transitions happen. So we talk to the families, we talk to them, we run through IEPs if we need to, and then that student comes in. Well, that student might come in after count day. Like right now, all of the students that might come from Monroe High School are after count day. So that 83 potentially in the next 3 or 4 days could go up 4 more because there's 4 kids kind of on the docket.
Well, we
that may
even
or may-
see students come in through the board, and they will make a recommendation with their families. Well, let's go to Orchard for a period of time.
Yep.
And then after that period of time, they will decide whether they want to stay there or they want to move back to Monroe High School, because they choose a Orchard for the reasons that we all know that you all do down at Orchard.
Right, yeah, there's different reasons for every family and different reasons for every board decision. I've been a part of several different board decisions. Each one has its own flavoring, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about overall is the individual pathways for kids. And sometimes it's a temporary pathway based on circumstances, and then there's other times there's choice of the lengthy pathway. So we had 8, 9 kids that decided to come in as 9th graders into our foundation year. They didn't go to the high school. Through conversations with middle school, through programming, we set up a program for them. And that's moved up to about 14 now because we've had kids move in that are actually 9th graders or kids from Monroe High School that might be better suited for a smaller scenario. And so that number's gone up. And sometimes those numbers go up in not opportune times.
But that's the benefit that Orchard has provided for those students that's been very valuable to the ongoing whole system working together.
Right. I think just to comment on what David was talking about, and Steve, I've been around the district for this is my 27th year. And I think in the last 3 or 4 years, Monroe High School is much more adept at what I would call nimble. when a student comes in, they can make adjustments. And I think, you know, I don't know, I can't predict the future because a lot of it depends on severance packages and decisions made at board level. Once they're made there, then it comes down through the cabinet, through David and I, and then the cabinet, and then Steve, and conversations about what's best overall. I don't know that we have a specific plan, because right now it's more of let's adapt to what's necessary. And I know we have to, unfortunately, we have to save a lot of money, and
So,
with that, there's decisions to
yeah,
be made.
and Orchard was just brought to us that day of the board meeting.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
Yeah.
all this in-depth conversations and stuff you all had, you know, that was our first at it. So I'm not a fan of it. I think that there's a lot of options in a district this big, but I think that Orchard provides a very valuable component to the system, which we've all benefited. We've all seen how students benefit from that. And I believe that you have also indicated that their learning style that you provide down there also is conducive to them, because not everybody fits in with a high school that has how many students?
1,250.
1,250 students. So, you know, that's a big environment, and the small environment, I think, like you all said. So, you know, I'm not a fan of it for those reasons. I think we're looking at high level right now. And in the high level, I think I get it. Tough choices got to be made.
Right.
But I think that 650 to 850, while it's a portion of the money, it's the value that you all bring is much greater than that.
Well,
That's just
I
my
appreciate you saying that. I
two
think
take
that-
on it.
But I believe, you know, in some of your prior discussions, particularly utilizing C-Wing at the high school, you could provide a similar atmosphere and structure as you did down at Orchard?
So, if we were having this conversation 5 years ago, I wouldn't recommend this. We've worked really hard over the last 3 years to develop Trojan Academy as a non-traditional pathway for our students. We have grown from 15 students to now over 60 in the Trojan Academy, I would say full day. We have over 120 Trojan Academy Light students that are in a classroom for about up to 3 hours a day doing some credit recovery work, but also go out to classes as well. And in saying that, we've had to become flexible for our students because I don't want students to leave our school. I want them to be able to experience everything that we have to offer. They just needed a different pathway. And we were able to find that through Trojan Academy. So if we are asked to bring on students from Orchard, they're Monroe Public School students, as I mentioned in our last meeting. We have the capability to service them in a way, whether it's in C-Wing or whether it doesn't matter where it's at. We have the capabilities when they walk into the classroom. They're going to experience an academic opportunity that will make them feel successful. A 6-hour day wasn't working for them. Going from classroom to classroom wasn't working for them. So we have a different pathway for them that shrinks Monroe High School down into a smaller school feel. But once they get their bearings down and they feel some success, we have students in Trojan Academy that take our double block welding class or our double block auto class or go out for Spanish or French. They get to experience some of the great things that we offer at Monroe High School. The pathway was a little bit different for them. And we're very confident that we feel that we can meet all students' needs.
So if we weren't looking, if money wasn't an object, would we be having this conversation at all?
We would still, yes, we would. And I mean that in all sincerity because of the capacity of where Monroe High School is at now. Is that, and I've not, you know, some of you have been in this school district for your whole life, okay? And so in the past, and this is what I've seen even, I mean, I wasn't even hardly even on the job, and we had things happening and students going to Orchard, was Orchard became a destination. and or a place where, okay, we got to get our kids over there because of that big old high school there, or something. I'm not going to let my kids go to Orchard, and so it becomes this either a positive or a negative. What has happened though is the opportunities for all students has grown immensely at Monroe High School, and so I look at it from the lens of now we're in a position where why should kids not choose the opportunity that sits right here at Monroe High School? Because if we're struggling around being around 100 or 1,300 students, they've already figured out how to accomplish that, so they're not in with 1,300 students when it comes to lunches of 400? Yeah, about 400 kids, to all those things that become barriers. And so we would actually be having this conversation because of the capacity of where Monroe High School is at. If they weren't where they're at, like Stephen said, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because of it. And so, as I told these two gentlemen the other day, I go, they've done their job. They've made it so that both entities are now in a position where we get to make this. We can make some other decisions because they did their jobs. Yay! We've got people doing their jobs, and even to all of the staff that's behind them are doing their jobs. And so that creates that ability that we could have this kind of a conversation for all students at Monroe Public Schools.
And I'd like to add too that I do have a Facebook, and I do read some of the comments. And when we some of the comments, they've got a negative connotation, like we're picking up students and we're secluding them. I would say, I guess, a couple things. We're trying to recreate the small school feel and safety that Orchard does provide their students. That would be the intent. It would also be the intent for each student to choose what pathway fits best for them. That's what I get the transition, the second domino to fall once we figure out what happens with staffing and teachers and the severance package would be what each individual student wants. What is the best plan, A, B, or C, to get them to graduate, depending on credit deficiency. And I guess I want to give credit to Steve and his team at the high school because Steve, some simple math, okay, don't let me down. Without Trojan Academy, what would potentially Orchard's enrollment potentially look like?
100, 200 kids.
So they're finding ways to keep kids under one roof, and I have to give Steve and the team credit for doing that. And in doing so, we are talking about this.
So why not just allow those students to experience what Orchard has to offer? I'm trying to comprehend why it's all of a sudden seeming like it's a negative thing. I've always seen it as a positive thing because it does provide an alternate pathway, like you said, that those students could opt into. And the other thing that you said was, if they don't, this would be between the parents and teacher. If they don't, you said if they don't want to go there, then we'd have to talk about that. Where else would they go? So if these students
They
are
drop
saying,
out.
huh?
They drop out.
Well, because we're just
That's
a
where they're
minute.
going.
Okay, that's not what my point was when you said that this current students enrolled at Orchard, if the decision's made that Orchard is moving to the C wing, and you said it would be between the parents and the student whether they wanted to make that choice. What is their other choice? So if they get a choice, what's their other choice? I don't know what that would be.
I think that the way I saw it, and help me out if I'm wrong here, is that if the decision was made to move Orchard to the high school, then the students would move. Once
They'd have
get
no
there,
choice.
Well, right, that part of it is not a choice. The other part of it then would be once they move in, then what options can be provided? And the options are still part of a future plan depending on what you guys decide as a board.
Mr. Drew, are you talking about actually melding Trojan Academy with the Orchard kids? Or are they going to stay separate entities?
No, they're not separate. So students will evaluate the students that are at Orchard, and then there'll probably be some virtual students that probably should be in a face-to-face situation. we take a look at each individual student. So we'll be reviewing 80 to close to 120 students. And we'll be taking a look at what part of Trojan Academy best suits their needs. Do they need a full-time Trojan Academy pathway? Or do they need maybe that Trojan Academy Light pathway where they just need maybe a few classes and some credit recovery classes, and they can be out taking some elective classes as well?
Because I did have one other question. Ever since I've been on the board, I've always been told that the kids at Orchard had a hard time functioning in a large high school, but they could function in a small school like Orchard. Now, are these kids going to be that segregated that they're not part of the bigger picture of the school?
No.
No, I'm trying to understand
There's no
this part.
segregation. Like, I want to stay away from that word. There is no segregation at all. Like I said, these are all Monroe Public School students.
Right.
A student may have left Monroe High School to go to Orchard because the 6-hour day wasn't for them. They were getting lost in the shuffle. Again, like I said, over the last 3 years, we've been able to work hard in developing systems in place at our school to make them feel more successful, where it's a non-traditional pathway, which is that Trojan Academy pathway. So we have that upper and lower learning commons where that you've seen.
Right.
Those students are part of our school. Okay, they take classes outside of those rooms, but while they're in those rooms, they're being engaged not only with their curriculum, but also with their social emotional well-being as well. Not everyone comes to school, like I've talked to the board about before, with 3 square meals a day and everything that they need. So we train our staff in ensuring that they're trauma informed and ensuring that students' needs are met every day.
I guess I'm just really trying to grasp what it is you guys want to do, from past conversations we've had on the board.
What was the question?
Since I've been on, I've been told many times that the kids at Orchard are there, a lot of them, because they have a hard time functioning in a large high school.
They
And
did
the
in
small-
that
and the-
model.
Yeah,
Yes.
the small model works great for them. Now we're gonna take those kids and we're gonna put them at Monroe High in that environment,
In the
And you
Trojan
said we're not
Academy
gonna
environment.
segregate them. So they're gonna be in that environment. Am I right, or just, not
They're
even
going to
correct me
be
if I'm
in
wrong?
Trojan Academy. Yes.
They're gonna be part of Trojan Academy.
Correct.
Okay, now I'm getting a better picture of what you wanna do here.
But Trojan Academy, you said, was part of the all school. They still go to lunch. They still do CTE. They still have all of that.
It's just like,
They're not segregated.
No,
I thought we
nobody's
said that they're not.
nobody is segregated. Remember, when I first came on, there was a push going, we need our students who attend Orchard High School to have an opportunity for CTE, okay? Have an opportunity for direct college, have an opportunity. And so we open those doors with our busing system at the beginning of the day, end of the day to make that happen. Trojan Academy operates in a way where students, when it comes to lunches, some may go to the lunchroom, some may not. So it's all very set up based on what that student's needs are.
It's very individualized.
Food there.
It is very individualized. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, is we get to know each student and what their needs are, and we're able to meet them. We've become very good at that over the last 3 years. We've worked.
So when you said they didn't do well, and I think I heard it twice, with the 6-hour day. So I know that your hours at Orchard were a bit flexible, if I believe my
Well,
understanding of it was.
We were, at one time, we were an alternative designation school, so we had to apply for a waiver from the state. This year, because of changes in transportation, we were able to extend our schedule enough to where we didn't need the alternative waiver for a shorter time.
So you're up to the 6 hours. So,
Well,
but
yeah,
Trojan
it-
Academy, you're saying is not doing 6
But
hours.
she's
So
talking
how?
about class periods. So students at Orchard.
No, I'm following
take-
what Steve said. He said a 6-hour school day.
Well,
And so,
not 6 hours long. We're talking like hours, periods, courses.
yeah, I'm following what he said. So he said that they could not do the 6 hours. And then you said Trojan Academy doesn't do that either. So what do they do if you don't have a waiver and he was required to a waiver? What do you do? How do they have smaller?
We are in a pilot program, so I'm assuming after the pilot.
Through,
No, there's a couple of different things, and I'd like to clear it up. So when we talk about Trojan Academy, students work through 1 or 2 courses at a time because 6 courses or 6 hours is too much. So they focus, they come up with a plan to finish the course in a certain amount of time. An Orchard student has science, they have social studies, they have math, they have English. The alternative waiver that James is talking about only has to deal with a shortened school day. We don't do that anymore because we extended the school day. We made the periods longer. The students are there longer, the same amount of time as Monroe High, the same amount of time as Monroe Middle School. So I don't
where
know.
does Trojan Academy fit in those hours then?
The Trojan Academy students have a full class period. They attend Monroe High. We've asked MDE about do we if we need a waiver or anything like that, and the answer is no.
So they are doing the same amount of hours that, because we just went through the calendar.
Hours is we're not using the correct term.
Well,
I
kids
don't
have to
believe.
be in school for so many hours. We just passed that calendar. So I did not see on that calendar that students were exempted from the amount of instructional hours that we have to supply. So I'm just trying to understand if Orchard is providing all of those hours currently, Monroe High is providing all those current, how is Trojan Academy not meeting that? I'm just
Well, we put
following
s-
this scenario.
We have the ability to put students on alternate schedules or half days based on need all the time. It doesn't mean that Monroe High is doing less than 1,098 hours, which is required by law. Some students show up when it is appropriate for them to show up based on need. Are they technically absent? They're not at Monroe High at 7:05, but their instruction is done virtually. So technically, they don't need to be there.
So how is that different? Like, I'm just trying to follow along that if they don't need an exception to all of that and they're not considered absent or tardy, where does that authority come from? Like, who sets that? If it's not a waiver to request, where does that come from?
Well, they're
Because if you're
receiving a-
talking about moving his students into that environment and his students are meeting the instructional hours in order not to have a waiver, then are those students in his category? I'm pointing both of you because you guys are one, the thing. Into his, they're not going to no longer get that according to what Steve just said.
So in this particular opportunity that students have the ability to select, those students are classified as virtual students, correct? So virtual students have different seat time requirements than students who are enrolled in a traditional high school experience. So for seat time,
Yeah, we said that in the meetings that they are
So
receiving virtual, that the platform is.
I didn't know they
Yes.
considered a virtual school though.
But they are.
They're
but
a
they receive their
virtual
instruction
student.
Through a virtual program, so it makes it a virtual.
So they do not have to follow and be there the same amount of number of minutes and hours that students in traditional programs do.
It's
I don't know
more
if that
about
helps.
communication. Like for our virtual
Oh,
program, attendance is based on two-way communication because our students in a more traditional type of virtual environment, they have to log in, they have to actively work, it's timed on the computer. And once that two-way communication happens, they would get credit for that day. But since they're virtual, they kind of choose their own schedule and they choose different lengths of time.
So we're going to help clarify some here. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Welcome. Yep, bring the microphone nice and loud. Dave, just turn the camera straight at you. So please clarify, because the conversation, we have students that are virtual. Okay, the whole program is virtual, but then students will go out to a class. How does that work?
So the students are taking most of their courses through Edgenuity, which is an online platform that we use. But some of the students leave for a French class or a welding class. However, some students do come in at 9 o'clock. Is that the question you're asking? How do we deal with that?
So I think the bigger question is how can we have a student that's on a virtual platform still go take a course in any other way because they're, they're virtual student.
It's kind of a hybrid model, I guess, that you would look at it like that. And we're still working with, like, some of the students in Trojan Academy do come at 7 o'clock in the morning. Some students, for different circumstances, come at 9 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, I did not know I was coming up to speak right now, so kind of caught off guard. But what was the question again, Darla? I'm sorry.
So we're looking at in class instructional time to meet the standards of, we set 1,112 hours of instruction time for Monroe Public School students. Orchard is now meeting that standard. Steve said Trojan Academy doesn't do that standard because they're considered virtual students. So I'm just trying to understand
I never
how
said
we're.
that.
Okay, what'd you say? Tell me what you said.
Not that.
Okay, then tell me what you said, because obviously.
I said we have a flexible schedule for our students to meet their needs.
Right, but it doesn't necessarily equate to the 1,112 hours because it's virtual
You got
time.
students that take 6 periods in a day, okay? That didn't work for many of our students where you go from one class to the next class, you had 6 different teachers. Didn't work, okay? 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't have anything to help them, okay? We didn't. We would recommend Orchard. We were losing many students. That 6-period day was not working for them. So we created Trojan Academy, which is a little bit more flexible. It is based, we don't call it virtual because virtual automatically sends out this, I get to stay home. We don't want these kids to stay home. We want them to come to school where we can take care of them, where we can meet their needs. So we also noticed that students that are in Trojan Academy need a flexible schedule. So we were able to say, if you want to come in at 9 o'clock because you had a really long night the night before, we set students up as long as they're on path to graduation. We have a 9 o'clock bus. We were able to work with Patty through transportation, which is amazing, to be able to have flexible transportation, which it was unheard of several years ago. We are able to do that where we can provide flexible transportation for students that are having a very hard time waking up because of whatever is going on at home. And we are able to accommodate that. Many students don't take that option. They said, I want to come in at 7:12 and work through the day, or I want to come in at 7:12 because they got autos 5th and 6th hour. So we use a virtual platform called Edgenuity to provide and deliver instruction to students. And we use a flexible model for these Trojan Academy students to meet whatever time requirements that the board and the state has provided us.
And they're still getting the 6 hours or class periods of curriculum, just in a different way.
Throughout the semester.
So they're not traveling around to 6 different periods a day, but they will get that same amount of curriculum throughout the semester. It just looks different for them.
Because if they're coming in at 9 o'clock on multiple things, my biggest
Some-
reason for saying this is to move Orchard to there. And I'm listening to what you said, and you said that they're now getting a full day instruction in the way that you have it designed down there. Those students are going to dramatically have a shift when they are now shifted to into Trojan Academy, because now they're more virtual, because it sounds like the majority of the instruction is virtual. So I just don't see how that's a positive impact on students that benefit from all of the resources down there. So I'm looking at it from, I'm trying to understand what they're going into. I'm trying to understand what they're coming from and say, obviously, I think that there's a value in having teachers that taught a long time.
We've had-
Obviously, I see a value in what's been done down there, and so we're moving students.
We've had, so over the last 3 years, we've had 34 students graduate from Monroe High School that had no business graduating. 34. There's a kid that we based this off of. He had maybe 1 credit his sophomore year. He was the guiding pathway to this. He graduated from his sophomore, junior, and senior year from 1 credit. He graduated from the work that we've done with Trojan Academy. Was it easy? No. But we have been able to, with the flexibility that we've been given, to create systems designed for specific kids. Out of a large building that we have, we've been able to design specific systems for kids that work for Monroe High School. I believe if we're given the opportunity to bring students over from where, it doesn't matter where they come from. Bring them in from Erie Mason, if they do school of choice, of course.
They do.
We will design something for them, whether it's a 6-hour day, whether it's an early middle college, whether it's a CTE, or whether it's a non-traditional pathway. I am very proud to say that Monroe High School offers that now.
I've always said that, what Monroe has to offer is it has Monroe High School, which is a traditional high school typically. You have Orchard High School, which allowed for flexibility and learning and the ways that you did it down there. We have Virtual, which is a high school for students that, are best in that environment. So the reason we're sitting here is, do we believe to undo what is done at Orchard is valuable to the system? And I'm just trying to find out answers, because obviously this is what you want, and I'm not there, obviously.
This is not what I want. This is
Well,
what I
somebody
believe.
wants.
This is what I believe we can make work for our kids.
Darla, I asked to join because I just want to add a little bit of history. When I was the principal at Orchard in 1617, there was Monroe High School and there was Orchard. And there wasn't a virtual school at the time. I think there was just a little bit. It had just started. So we have like a menu of options now that we didn't have before. When I would call the high school and I would say, can I have this student's transcript? There are a lot of different reactions that I got that don't exist anymore. So when I would ask, can I have the student's transcript? Some of the counselors who were there at the time who are no longer there would say, I don't even want to deal with this kid. Am I actually getting paid to do this? So that's how much our school system has changed from then till now. We don't use words like down there anymore, because down there actually refers to something that's derogatory and negative. So I think what we're trying to explain.
We use those words.
You have 5 times tonight. One of the things that we are asking is that you recognize that we're evolving, and we're evolving into something that offers all of these options in one place. Are we excited about it? No. And I want to actually kick the ball a little further down the field on the severance package at this moment. If you do approve the severance package, as a union leader, if we do move Orchard from there to the high school, we would open up opportunities for all of our staff there to potentially have a job there. So we're looking for both of those situations. So I think what Steve and everybody's trying to explain is, as a school district, we're pretty proud of our evolution that has happened in our school district. We're really proud of the menu of options we have, because we just had a meeting at the high school the other day, and Sarah's in her room. We're getting ready for the meeting. A student comes in, is very stressed out, left all of their stuff. We stopped everything. I watched Steve and Sarah work to make sure that student can be regulated again and feel supported, because that's where they go. They go to all their teachers, and those teachers are trained in SEL, and they know exactly how to support students. It doesn't matter what their background is. And I think that's what they're trying to explain to you guys is what we used to have as a mental model, which is still the mental model inside of our community of what Orchard was and what the high school was. It has changed and evolved a lot. And so if we have to save money, we're saying, we're looking at all of these options, and we're looking at every kid. Even though we have a lot of students, every student is like an individual that I know my colleagues are looking at and saying, well, you care, you're one. We're going to spend the time on one. So they're going to work on spending the time on all 83 kids, making sure that we sit down with them individually and work through that. And that needs to be said publicly, which is why I stood up, because our kids are listening, our parents are listening, and I know they're going to want to know they're cared for, and so are our students. The thing I would recommend is that we make sure that we keep the alternative diploma. So we haven't talked about that yet. So that is the caveat of going to Orchard, is you get to have an alternative diploma, and maybe that's part of the discussion that needs to happen.
We offer that too.
Yeah.
You know,
Trojan
everybody up
Academy
here-
has the Michigan Merit Diploma option as well.
Who does?
Trojan Academy,
Yeah.
as well as the Monroe High School 23.5 credit diploma. There is an option for the Michigan Merit Diploma if needed for the student.
You know, what we're trying to do here tonight is get the information because we're ultimately the ones that need to make the decision. And I would, if I didn't care about the kids, I wouldn't sit here and ask 1,000 questions to understand how it's going to impact them because I agree with you, Chantel. There's a lot of people listening that are going to want answers the same thing we're looking for answers for. So that's how you get to a decision is you explore those options. So appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I think we all feel that Orchard is a special place, so that's why it's hard for us to wrap our minds around that.
It very much is. So if I could ask the board if, right now, thank you guys, go ahead and sit down,
Okay.
okay? This is coming back on April 13th. What I need right now is if you have particular information that you need or need us to work on, to put it out there so we can get it into our, and/or if you don't have any kind of particular question right this moment, if some comes, we need that so we can work on it and come back. Otherwise, I would hate just to regurgitate the exact same conversation on April 13th without further guidance from you.
So are you going to give us another option because right now you have this all numbered out. So if there's not support from the board to make the Orchard move, what is the other option? Because there always has to be another option. We can't have one or none. So we have a severance package. Once that comes in, we'll have to look at another option there. So if we decide as a board that we want to Orchard to stay there, then we need another option for this finance.
So when we work down through here, you'll see the bottom number in the range is,
4,700,000 to 6,700,000.
So if we voted to keep Orchard, then the numbers, we would still meet our target of.
Potentially.
Okay, thank you.
Potentially.
Thank you.
And, but that's,
Yeah.
but there's, like I always keep referring to, there's a lot of variables there that get played out. And so, is there other questions that you have around Orchard that you need answers brought back?
I think I covered mine, thank you.
We're covered. Okay. Okay. So then the next items, and these, I'll be able to move through these much more quickly. So what will happen is in the next set of items, the technology department will reduce its budget, and this is general fund dollars, by $250,000 to $350,000. The executive director of technology will work with his team and bring back a plan to the cabinet on April the 16th, or April 17th, where we'll go through that plan, ask a lot of questions, and send back for revision if they need it. They'll come back to the cabinet after that with their final plan. On May 11th, and so on April 13th, we can give you a little bit of information, but on May 11th, our technology director would then say, okay, we were able to reduce our technology budget and general fund by, for example, $400,000. Here were the top 3 things that we did to reduce our general fund budget. Because I can't go and get into his world and say, okay, what are the things that you should be doing or not doing that doesn't have a direct, that's going to really do a lot of harm out there. He just knows he has to reduce that budget. Same goes for operations. Same goes for athletics. Same goes for transportation. Same goes for this building right here, is each one has to analyze how to reduce their budgets accordingly. And so some are going to be able to hit those markers. Others may come up short. That's why there's a range right there, but that's what we're holding as an expectation. When we get into the support staff, I want to be very clear here so everyone is hearing, because last time we had any kind of a conversation here was I got accused that we would not have students who had an IEP having a support staff member, and that is the furthest from the truth, because legally they are required to have those supports. When we talk about support staff, this is anybody that is not a teacher, not a custodian, not a bus driver. This is everyone that's in the buildings. And so this means that, as we shared before, some of these positions we're working on rewriting job descriptions that are general fund job descriptions, and rewrite them so in a manner where there's going to have to be less people. Okay, I'm not saying there won't be less people, but how do we still meet our needs both academically and also social emotionally? So that is a requirement.
Give me an example of what some of those titles are.
1 second.
I'm assuming parapros are part of that?
So parapros are a part of a support staff person, but again, in our district, and that's why I thank you for actually asking that question. I appreciate it because each building has to be appropriately staffed with support staff. Okay, I can't go, okay, well, guess what, Waterloo, you're gonna have 3 less support staff, parapros, and good luck, Kelly, on dealing with lunch and recess. Have fun. Okay, that's just not a realistic thing. Just like also when it comes into the classroom. And so when we get into, like, for example, a parapro, a lot of our support staff in that role are supported through grant, either title and or 31A. So they're not,
okay,
that's not what we're talking about right
Some other
now.
titles.
So we're talking about, let me find my.
Hopefully 31 double A.
Yeah. So, well,
Hopefully.
Yeah. So what you really get into is when we start looking at all of the different positions that we are taking out of it, and I'm going to make a mistake, and I'm sorry to all those that are listening because it's not going to capture every single one, and I know.
Right, and I'm
that
not looking at that.
is what we're looking at is anywhere where we're spending general fund money. So, for example, I've got deans, we have deans of students, we have behavior techs, we have secretaries, we have, oh my gosh, Cass, can you help me real fast? Anyone else that I've?
Social workers, counselors,
Yeah,
restorative practice
there we go. Thank you.
coordinators,
Anyone that all these different
BCBAs,
positions.
school improvement coaches.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Alphabet soup.
Yeah, it's so it's in some of those positions, it'll be, again, we go back to the first thing that has to fall or go forward, okay? But then after that is how do we convert as much of this over to a general fund cost while looking at how each building is still supported? Because that's the other part is we do still expect the outcomes to still stay high. So that will be a shift. And that not every building will have all the exact same staff that they currently have. That is real.
Understood.
Year.
So one of the things that I know I've mentioned, and I think we've talked about, is the fact that when there's grant money, there are options for what you could use that for. So usually there's a list of options. And so I know that like academic tutors is an option. So when we say grant money can't be touched, it can be if you're going to add or change some of the position to academic tutor as chair to something else. So you can do that.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're saying.
You know,
right
because
here.
the grants allow for flexibility in what the money is used for staff. I just want to make that clear.
And that's what I
You
just
can't
said
say
too.
grant money can't be touched because it can be moved in what it's used for. And if it's used for something else and it doesn't now affect general fund, you can move
There's-
a general fund cost into a grant and do it that way.
And I believe the positions that we're looking at are currently majorly or all funded through the general fund. So we're looking at ways to align those positions to potentially be covered by a grant instead of the general fund. So
So
to
for-
use those grant funds in a different manner, but still achieve the end result of giving the buildings the support they need, but perhaps taking a position that was general fund and moving it to a grant. So then that frees up general fund dollars and uses the
And
grant
looking
funds in
at-
a different way.
Another example would be social workers. We spend, we have 11 social workers in our district, and so it's funded between general fund and 31A. And so, and that's a 50-50 split. So it's about $425,000 that's coming out of 31A, $425,000 coming out of general fund. So the idea is, well, how can we open up enough money in 31A to protect the general fund? Well, that would just, right there, you already have a third of that money in that area already protected. And that comes down to, for example, this year we took $400,000 because 31AA didn't happen. So that means we're gonna make other shifts on what do we keep or not keep that we were using that money for. So my point is, it is really looking at each area specifically. So, but what you'll have though is, again, on April 13th, we'll come back to you with more information. But on those ones I just went through, it's really on May 11th. We'll come in with each one and tell you, okay, this is how much it was. Here are the top 3, 4, 5 items that was adjusted to make that work. So I think that's all I got. Yes.
In the category, and I'm looking at those, the ones that you listed. Those support staff, their primary role is in what function?
So a-
Because they're not
so-
tutors, they're not
Nope.
teachers.
So
they're
a
not-
support staff, but they are tutors. So a support staff person supports everything that goes on in the building. So that is from the academics to social emotional. So that's a support staff person. Because even an administrative assistant, a secretary in the building is a support staff person. They support all the kids. They support. So that's when we look at that, when we say support staff, it's anyone that's basically, they're not cleaning the building, they're not providing food services, they're not providing transportation, they're not providing administration, and they're not providing direct instruction by a teacher.
So in this category would be academic tutors, is what you're
It's
saying?
everyone that is not that's not a teacher. Correct, it would be. It would be anyone that is being, and it's really, again, back to focus on the general fund. And so, and how we make those adjustments there.
I'm just thinking that if teachers are reduced, class sizes are raised, I would think that we would need to put some of our money focusing on academic and academic supports.
So-
And I'm just wondering, like, are we ensuring that those are there as well?
Right, but they already are there. We already have those supports built in. But again, we'll go back to our very first premise 2 weeks ago was we cannot, we have to do everything in our power to make sure that we continually sustain and grow our academics and the supports we have for our students on an emotional side. So, but with that though, it's really, it goes back to how do we use those general fund dollars and our grant funds to make sure we can move it there. So,
Okay.
yes. So that's all I have tonight, sir.
Okay. Public commentary. Brian, do we have public commentary tonight?
We do. Carol, if you want to make your way up. I've got this fancy new clock. We've moved it to the
Oh, wow.
21st century.
Man, look
You
at
haven't
you.
seen me with flashcards now or anything like that.
Thank you.
But this is the first time I'm using it, so there might be a little bit of glitch.
It's got music on it?
Gary, let's not be silly. All right, I'm gonna start this thing in 3 minutes. Whatever you want.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Carol Bolenberg, and I'm an assistant at Orchard Center High School. It's my 3rd year at Orchard. So I think I kind of have a question and and a comment here. So I just was listening today, and from what I understand, is our students at Orchard won't be picked up and placed as a whole. They will be blended in so that our students who are not virtual, the ones in the the Orchard part, that part won't continue. The Orchard part won't continue. The virtual part will. And then those kids won't be taught by in-person teachers. So that's sort of my question, but I want to continue on before anything else. So, and I thank you guys for letting me share what I've witnessed since I've been there. I've seen students truly transform their lives. Many arrive at Orchard in distress academically, behaviorally, emotionally. And I have seen the support of our staff help them grow into confident, motivated individuals who have worked hard to graduate. I mean, it amazes me when I see that. About half of the kids I work with come from Monroe High and have experienced some real challenges there, a variety of reasons. And the smaller environment, the individualized attention has really changed them. Being taught in person is such value to these kids, the one-on-one that I can give them as an assistant, but the small classrooms and that the teachers I watch the teachers take extra time and care with each one of these kids. And another thing I wanted to talk about was this neighborhood school thing. It is an anchor for a lot of students. A lot of the kids, I've counted the last few days since our last discussion about how many kids actually get off the bus. And I see about 12 to 15 kids coming from Monroe High. And I could have those numbers wrong, but I've been trying to pay a little of attention. A lot of them just live nearby and they walk. A lot of them are dropped off. And that neighborhood school to them fosters a lot of pride, a belonging, connections. And I'm a parent and a former student of a neighborhood school. I grew up walking to my school all the way through 7th grade. And then my children were able to be in a neighborhood school, until junior high or whatever it was called them. And I see firsthand how it has affected them and how it has affected me, and it is a definite positive experience. The community at Orchard Center is strong and impactful. Most of our students return and come back and tell us how great they're doing, and they want to thank us. They want to show us how we help them be successful adults, and just thank us for the role we played in their lives at a very important and pivotal moment when they came to us, and how we've changed that. And I do understand that difficulty of balancing a budget. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes to do it, but I want you to make sure that you realize the impact that we make as Orchard, where it is at, how it is working right now is amazing to me. That you keep that in the forefront of your mind when you make these decisions. And it's just not a school. It's a place for these kids that they feel safe. They are at home. It is a family. I wish I could tell you how happy I am to be there. What a difference I see in the students that I work with. So I hope that you would consider not moving Orchard. I hope that it gets to stay where it is and how it is, because it has changed so many lives, and not just the students. The staff members there are just impacted by the students as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
I don't think you ever pushed the button.
Oh, you were over, but that's okay.
Okay, well, darn, I didn't look. Thank you.
Yvonne, you're up next. Already took 2 seconds from you. Talk fast.
I will. No, I just have a quick comment based on the reaction when the subject of split classes was brought up. Everybody seemed horrified. My kids went to Riverside. It's been so long, I can't remember the name of it. But that was a small school and lots of split classes all the way through. Not in kindergarten or first, I don't believe, but the rest of the time, and they did very well in that. They were careful to choose students, from the lower grade. For example, a fifth grader would be in a sixth grade classroom, but they chose the top fifth graders so they could handle it. If the teacher's concentrating on a sixth grade lesson, those kids had their own seat work they could do or something. But it worked very well for them until they got to Cantrick, seventh grade for all, Cantrick situation. And at that point, they used to have an advanced math class, and the fifth graders had gone through the sixth grade math while they were in fifth grade, and then the teacher got hold of a seventh grade book. So she taught them that when they were in sixth grade. And there had always been an advanced math class at Cantrick, but that's the year that he decided to do away with it. And my daughter came home from school and says, not only are we not doing seventh grade work, some of these kids can't even do fifth grade work, but they were all lumped in together. And that's when I started coming to school board meetings about 30 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne.
That is it.
Okay, thank you. And that does conclude our agenda for tonight. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Support.
Support, show of hands. The Monroe Public Schools Board of Education work session for Monday, March 23rd, 2026 is adjourned, and the time is 8:22 p.m. Go home.